Hello and welcome to the Rob Burgess Show. I am of course your host Rob Burgess. On this, our 149th episode, our returning guest is Jonathan Fowler. You first heard Jonathan Fowler on episodes 2, 10, 20, 21, 29, 30, 31, 32, 34, 35, 43, 48, 51, 56, 64, 74, 83, 92, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 111, 114, 115, 116, 119, 126, 127, 133, 137, 140, 146, 147, and episode 82, which also featured fellow regular guest Ash Burgess of the podcast. Jonathan graduated with a BA in History from Indiana University in 2006. He is an unabashed left-wing political junkie. He has lived and worked in South Korea for over 10 years, trying to help the citizens of that great nation, hopefully, talk pretty one day. And now, on to the show.
I don't know, I went to bed with one or two recent shootings and one stock market plunge, and I woke up this morning with a second or third recent shooting and a second stock market plunge, and yeah, been crazy.
Mm-hmm. But trade wars are easy to win, Cha.
Yeah, we'll see. I think, I don't know. We'll see what happens. That, doesn't always pay to be doom and gloom, but this may be the linchpin that we need to finish off the Trump presidency, is for the economy to crash because of his absolute stupidity. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a shame that so many people would have to get hurt to extract him, but, this might be what it takes, I guess. I mean, it's hard to run against a good, or at least on paper, a good economy. So.
Yeah, well, it's a shame so many people voted for the guy. So. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, it's interesting. I think the Treasury Department has designated China a currency manipulator, which is something that they've always talked about doing, but always held back from doing and stuff. So yeah, it's crazy. I mean, Korea's been kind of playing a trade war game with Japan recently and stuff. Japan, I think I don't know what they did. They banned the imports of banned the exports to Korea of a part that was necessary, or a chemical or something, or item that was necessary for the manufacture of microchips or something, which is a big part of Korean economy, but it's also kind of a back and forth between the Korean and Japanese economies and stuff, and that's been having an effect. And then Japan took Korea off their white list of countries that have some preferential trading thing, and then Korea did the same to Japan. And Pompeo came over here and met with basically the Secretary of States of both countries, but America is basically kind of having a hands-off approach and let them figure it out and stuff, which is probably not smart. Probably America ought to sit them both down and say, look, you need to work this out right now. There's crazy shit going on in the world. Just because Donald Trump is starting a trade war with China doesn't mean that everybody else needs to follow his example here. So, and it's of course about the wartime sexual slavery issue and stuff like that, and Korean courts holding Japanese companies accountable for that, and China or Japan not accepting that. So that's kind of where this is coming from. So
and this is from World War II.
Yeah. So the Korean stock market plunged 600 points or something yesterday and they halted trading for 5 minutes or something, which they haven't done for 3 years. And I think the Japanese economy is going down a little bit too. I'm not sure how much and stuff. And I don't know. I'm not sure how much Korea can take in this kind of a fight. And I'm really not. I have even less idea how much the Japanese economy can take in this fight. So, but, I don't know. Who knows? Today may go down in history. This may be the beginning of the next recession or depression in the world. I don't know. Not to be alarmist, and I'm not primarily an economics guy, but yeah, it seems like today could be pretty major. So yeah, and we had shootings recently in Gilroy, California at the Garlic Festival, apparently with 3 dead, 15 wounded. El Paso, Texas, 22 dead at this point and 24 wounded. Those numbers may fluctuate. And Dayton, Ohio, 9 dead and 27 injured. So absolutely crazy day in America. Past couple days. Yeah, I don't know. It's bad to watch. So yeah. But yeah, we've watched the debates here.
Yeah, I watched the first one. I haven't watched the second one yet, but this first one was action packed. So
yeah, I watched the second one first and the first one second. Although I'd seen bits and pieces of the first one before that, but CNN didn't make it easy this time. But we all have ways and means, so.
Yeah, I was kind of curious as to why it was so hard to find. It seemed like the other ones were much more accessible, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's not a good thing. I mean, like, come on, CNN, like, you should have this streaming on your site. Number one. Number two, right after it finishes, you can continue to have it allow it to stream on your site. But like when I was trying to go to CNN.com to like watch it like a couple hours after it ended, they're like, oh, winners and losers from tonight's debates, and oh, watch these little, very highly curated 30-second clips from the debate and get a flavor of it. And it's like, if a debate has any value, it's that it gives people the knowledge of what the people are advocating. We don't need a middleman to, curate that for us or give us the conclusions ahead of time. If you're going to have the responsibility of being in charge of a debate for a major party in America, you need to make that information free to the people, right? Like this isn't like, we're trying to push the CNN app or, I don't know. It's a cable channel, etc. It's not the good way. So, but yeah, the first debate. So, what was your overall impression of the debate?
Overall, I thought Bernie and Elizabeth Warren smacked down a fair number of people that needed to be smacked down, and they definitely. I mean, you talked about their non-aggression pact before, and they definitely seemed to be tag teaming it this time around. So I think that was good, and it was a little bit annoying that they kept coming back with these same centrist arguments. And of course, we had the debut on the debate stage, maybe for the last time, of Steve Bullock.
I hope so.
Yeah.
That guy's voice annoyed the hell out of me.
It was very irritating. I agree.
He has this like really weird delivery where he just sounds very, I don't know, cocksure.
Yeah.
Use that word. It's like, I mean, there was one point where he was talking about private insurance, and he said something like, my 12-year-old son he had a heart attack right after he was born, and because we had good health insurance, he didn't die. It's like weird flex, but okay. I mean, like, what if you were one of the people who didn't have good health insurance? I mean, that's the only logical next thing you can say. But he's acting like this is a big, his tone was so bizarre. It was like so triumphant and like kind of look what I've got, but not everybody's got or something. So I don't know. There were several cases where that guy was talking where it was just so annoying, but.
Yeah, well, I think he's running on the I'm from a red state, but I'm a progressive sort of, and I can capture the Trump voters like other people can't. I think is his pitch. So.
Yeah, but I think that it's ridiculous. I just sent you yesterday. The New York Times had a document that they made through some pretty heavy research. It looks like of where all the donors are to the Democrats and stuff spread throughout the country geographically.
I saw that.
And it was just like a huge blue map with like one little red spot, 2 red spots, a green spot or something, a little bit of orange in there. And all the blue was Bernie Sanders. And all the other colors were all these other people and stuff. And they actually had to make a second version of the map without Bernie Sanders on it, just so you could even see where other people were actually getting money from.
Yeah, I was like, wow, file not found on the Tulsi Gabbard fundraising, I guess. But
there's a lot of
I guess
people on the internet that talk a lot of shit for Tulsi Gabbard, but where's the money, Where's the money, Lebowski? So,
well, I guess they couldn't include the map of Russia on that, so maybe that was where the heat map was for her. I don't know, but
yeah, I do think we got to be a little bit careful with her. From what I've seen online, it seems like people who criticize her get a lot of they get swarmed by by Tulsi bots or something, like these people who are. So it sounds like they're making it difficult for some people to criticize her for whatever reason. Who knows what it is.
Well, let me just say, welcome to the Rob Burgess Show, Tulsi Gabbard hate lovers.
Yeah, you should listen all the way to the end, because at the end we're going to do a big takedown on Tulsi. You're going to hate it. So,
that's
funny.
Be
vicious.
Yeah.
So, So anyways, this time we had, this is the second Democratic debate, the CNN debate held in Detroit, Michigan. This was night one. It was, July 30th, 2019. I think that's pretty much the information, the basic information. Let's see. We had Steve Bullock, who was a Montana governor. Let's see. Marianne Williamson, spiritual author activist. John Delaney, former Maryland congressman. Tim Ryan, Ohio congressman. John Hickenlooper, former Colorado governor. Amy Klobuchar, Minnesota governor. Beto O'Rourke, former Texas congressman. Pete Buttigieg, mayor of South Bend, Indiana. Elizabeth Warren, Massachusetts senator. Bernie Sanders, Vermont senator. So those were the folks. And I don't know what was really weird about this. I mean, this debate was much more entertaining, I'll say, than the second night debate, I think, was.
Oh yeah.
But this one also, Jake Tapper let it just get wildly out of control for the first 35 minutes or something on healthcare. It was just an absolute bloodbath free-for-all, And I think the image of this debate, the defining image for me, is Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren holding flamethrowers back to back, just torching everybody around them.
Yeah.
I think
it almost wasn't fair. I was just like, "Hey, somebody call the fight."
Yeah. Yeah, I think the designated establishment hitmen for this situation were John Delaney, John Hickenlooper, and Tim Ryan. Those seemed
what a collection.
They did their best, but they were I don't know, they were squealing in the flames there after a while. It felt like so.
I mean, we'll talk about this later, but my favorite moment wasn't actually something that someone said. It was actually when Elizabeth Warren actually I could see her looking at John Delaney when they were talking about Jake Tapper was like, "You're a rich man, John Delaney, and she's gonna get your money," and she was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna get your money." She was just rubbing her hands together and it was awesome.
To his credit, he didn't at that point come out against higher taxes for the rich, as he said we need them, but he first said Wall Street speculators or the something like that, but yeah, it's Bernie hit him a couple times for having been in the health care business, quote unquote business. Yeah, these are all things we're going to get into, but I definitely detected that those three guys were kind of designated, they kept trying to play those three against him. And you wonder, these people, what their purpose is to be in here. And you start to think, maybe it's just they think that, maybe Joe Biden, told them, look, just stay in, do as much damage as you can on your debate night, and I'll have a place for you in my administration somewhere or something like that. It's these guys are not in it to win it. They're definitely not. They're in there to just do as much damage to the left as they can. And it's very obvious. So, yeah, it was wild, but it made you think a lot for sure about if Bernie and Elizabeth Warren were to be like running mates together, one way or the other. You could almost flip a coin or something to determine who was going to be at the top of the ticket. But what an administration that would be. And I doubt that'll happen. I think either one of them would have to choose somebody more mainstream or moderate or something as their running mate, possibly a person of color, possibly a woman or whatever. But together, those two, they were remarkably effective at having each other's backs. They never went after each other. They jumped into, when somebody else was going after the other one. It was a hell of a show.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Governor Steve Bullock, please begin.
Thanks, Dana. I come from a state where a lot of people voted for Donald Trump. Let's not kid ourselves. He will be hard to beat. Yet watching that last debate, folks seem more concerned about scoring points or outdoing each other with wish list economics than making sure Americans know we hear their voices and will help their lives. Look, I'm a pro-choice, pro-union, populist Democrat that won 3 elections in a red state, not by compromising our values, but by getting stuff done. That's how we win back the places we lost. Showing up, listening, focusing on the challenges of everyday Americans. That farmer getting hit right now by Trump's trade wars, that teacher working a second job just to afford her insulin, they can't wait for revolution. Their problems are on the here and now. I'm a progressive, emphasis on progress, and I'm running for president to get stuff done for all those Americans Washington has left behind.
Marianne Williamson.
Thank you. In 1776, our founders brought forth on this planet an extraordinary new possibility. It was the idea that people, no matter who they were, would simply have the possibility of thriving. We have not ever totally actualized this ideal, but at the times when we have done best, we have tried. And when forces have opposed them, generations of Americans have risen up and pushed back against those forces. We did that with abolition and with women's suffrage and with civil rights. And now it is time for a generation of Americans to rise up again. For an amoral economic system has turned short-term profits for huge multinational corporations into a false god. And this new false god takes precedence over the safety and the health and the well-being of we, the American people, and the people of the world, and the planet on which we live. Conventional politics will not solve this problem, because conventional politics is part of the problem. We, the American people, must rise up and do what we do best and create a new possibility. Say no to what we don't want and yes to what we know can be true. I'm Marianne Williamson, and that's why I'm running for president.
Congressman John Delaney.
Folks, we have a choice. We can go down the road that Senator Sanders and Senator Warren want to take us, with bad policies like Medicare for all, free everything, and impossible promises that'll turn off independent voters and get Trump reelected. That's what happened with McGovern. That's what happened with Mondale. That's what happened with Dukakis. Or we can nominate someone with new ideas to create universal health care for every American with choice, someone who wants to unify our country and grow the economy and create jobs everywhere. And then we win the White House. I'm the product of the American dream. I believe in it. I'm the grandson of immigrants, the son of a construction worker. My wife, April, and I have 4 amazing daughters. I was the youngest CEO in the history of the New York Stock Exchange, created thousands of jobs, and then served in Congress. That's the type of background, and my platform is about real solutions, not impossible promises that can beat Trump and govern. Thank you.
Congressman Tim Ryan.
America is great, but not everyone can access America's greatness. The systems that were built to lift us up are now suffocating the American people. The economic system that used to create $30, $40, $50 an hour jobs that you can have a good, solid middle-class living now force us to have 2 or 3 jobs just to get by. Most families, when they go to sit at the kitchen table to do their bills, they get a pit in the middle of their stomach. We deserve better. And the political system is broken too, because the entire conversation is about left or right. Where are you at on the political system? And I'm here to say this isn't about left or right. This is about new and better. And it's not about reforming old systems. It's about building new systems. And tonight, I will offer solutions that are bold, that are realistic, and that are a clean break from the past.
Governor John Hickenlooper.
Last year, Democrats flipped 40 Republican seats in the House, and not one of those 40 Democrats supported the policies of our frontrunners at center stage. Now, I share their progressive values, but I'm a little more pragmatic. I was out of work for 2 whole years until I started what became the largest brew pub in America. And I learned the small business lessons of how to provide service and teamwork, and became a top mayor, and as governor of Colorado, created the #1 economy in the country. We also expanded health care and reproductive rights. We attacked climate change head on. We beat the NRA. We did not build massive government expansions. Now, some will promise a bill tonight or a plan for tonight. What we focused on was making sure that we got people together to get things done, to provide solutions to problems, to make sure that we worked together and created jobs. That's how we're going to beat Donald Trump. That's how we're going to win Michigan and the country.
Senator Amy Klobuchar.
Let's get real. Tonight we debate, but ultimately we have to beat Donald Trump. My background, it's a little different than his. I stand before you today as a granddaughter of an iron ore miner, as a daughter of a union teacher and a newspaperman, as a first woman elected to the U.S. Senate from the state of Minnesota, and a candidate for president of the United States. That's because we come from a country of shared dreams. And I have had it with the racist attacks. I have had it with a president that says one thing on TV that has your back, and then you get home and you see those charges for prescription drugs and cable and college. You're going to hear a lot of promises up here, but I'm going to tell you this. Yes, I have bold ideas, but they are grounded in reality. And yes, I will make some simple promises. I can win this. I'm from the Midwest. And I have won every race, every place, every time. And I will govern with integrity, the integrity worthy of the extraordinary people of this nation.
Congressman Beto O'Rourke.
I'm running for president because I believe that America discovers its greatness at its moments of greatest need. This moment will define us forever. And I believe that in this test, America will be redeemed. In the face of cruelty and fear from a lawless president, we will choose to be the nation that stands up for the human rights of everyone, for the rule of law for everyone, and a democracy that serves everyone. Whatever our differences, we know that before we are anything else, we are Americans first. And we will ensure that each one of us is well enough and educated enough and paid enough to realize our full potential. We will meet these challenges here at home, and we will lead the world in those that we face abroad, successfully confronting endless war and climate change. At this moment of truth, let us pursue our national promise and make a more perfect union of everyone, by everyone, and for everyone.
Mayor Pete Buttigieg.
I'm running for president because our country is running out of time. It is even bigger than the emergency of the Trump presidency. Ask yourself how somebody like Donald Trump ever gets within cheating distance of the Oval Office in the first place. It doesn't happen unless America is already in a crisis, an economy that's not working for everyone, endless war, climate change. We have lived this in my industrial Midwestern hometown. My generation has lived this as long as we have been alive, and it's only accelerating. Science tells us we have 12 years before we reach the horizon of catastrophe when it comes to our climate. By 2030, the average house in this country will cost $500,000, and a woman's right to choose may not even exist. We are not going to be able to meet this moment by recycling the same arguments, policies, and politicians that have dominated Washington for as long as I have been alive. We've got to summon the courage to walk away from the past and do something different. This is our shot. That is why I'm running for president.
Senator Elizabeth Warren.
Donald Trump disgraces the office of president every single day. And anyone on this stage tonight or tomorrow night would be a far better president. I promise no matter who our candidate is, I will work my heart out to beat Donald Trump and to elect a Democratic Congress. But our problems didn't start with Donald Trump. Donald Trump is part of a corrupt, rigged system that has helped the wealthy and the well-connected and kicked dirt in the faces of everyone else. We're not going to solve the urgent problems that we face with small ideas and spinelessness. We're going to solve them by being the Democratic Party of big structural change. We need to be the party that fights for our democracy and our economy to work for everyone. You know, I know what's broken in this country. I know how to fix it, and I will fight to make it happen.
Senator Bernie Sanders.
Tonight in America, as we speak, 87 million Americans are uninsured or underinsured. But the healthcare industry made $100 billion in profits last year. Tonight, as we speak, right now, 500,000 Americans are sleeping out on the street. And yet companies like Amazon that made billions in profits did not pay one nickel in federal income tax. Tonight, half of the American people are living paycheck to paycheck. And yet 49% of all new income goes to the top 1%. Tonight, the fossil fuel industry continues to receive hundreds of billions of dollars in subsidies and tax breaks while they destroy this planet. We have got to take on Trump's racism, his sexism, xenophobia, and come together in an unprecedented grassroots movement to not only defeat Trump, but to transform our economy and our government.
Yeah. Well, Steve Bullock in the opening statements, I think he said we don't need, and we can't wait for a revolution. Let's see. Marianne Williamson said prophets are a false god. Something. Say no to. What did she say? Say no to something we don't want. Say no to what we don't want. Say yes to what we know can be true. Weird. It's like that kind of that inspirational speaking kind of style of saying no to what we don't want. Say yes to what we can't want to. We know to be true. Okay. Wow. Okay. Let's see. John Delaney attacks Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders in his opening statement and compares them to McGovern, Mondale, and Dukakis. Walter Mondale, yeah. Let's see. George McGovern and Michael Dukakis, I think, three failed left-wing presidential candidates from the past, from like the 70s and 80s and stuff. 60s, 70s, and 80s, maybe even. I don't know. I wasn't there for a lot of that, but yeah. I don't know. But, you know, it begs the question, what about Hillary Clinton? You know, she, you know, this was the reasonable moderate that was supposed to not be the Mondale, the Dukakis, the McGovern. And, you know, so you can't talk about those three without also talking about her, I think. So, let's see. Tim Ryan, Hickenlooper, Klobuchar, Beto O'Rourke. Nothing really noteworthy about their openings, I guess. Pete Buttigieg said, ask yourself how someone like Donald Trump even gets within cheating distance of the Oval Office in the first place, which was a pretty good line for his opening there. It's because, I mean, that's a great question. Like, he didn't win. He basically cheated. I mean, like, there were a lot of factors and stuff. Like, how did he even get that close to it? It's, you know, that's the stupid thing. Elizabeth Warren said, let's see, small ideas and spinelessness aren't going to solve our problems. Yeah, good line. And yeah, I didn't really make any notes on Bernie's opening statement there, but yeah, that was kind of their openings, I guess, some of them. So, healthcare.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
well, what do you think of the framing of the questions, though? Because I actually thought Bernie made a good point in that He said that Jake Tapper was basically asking the questions as if it was a Republican talking point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, if you get everything covered by Medicare for all, it's not really taking something from people to not have private insurance. So if they don't pay for it anyway and it gets the coverage that they want, it's not like I just, that's the wrong way to say it. Like it's not taking something from someone, it's replacing it with something that covers everybody. It's not. That's not the way to ask the question.
You should drop in like the audio of Jake Tapper's question, which was a bullshit question. It was like,
and Senator Sanders, let's start with you. You support Medicare for all, which would eventually take private health insurance away from more than 150 million Americans in exchange for government-sponsored health care for everyone. Congressman Delaney just referred to it as bad policy, and previously he has called the idea political suicide that will just get President Trump reelected. What do you say to Congressman Delaney?
You're wrong. Right now, we have a dysfunctional health care system, 87 million uninsured or underinsured, $500,000 Americans every year going bankrupt because of medical bills, 30,000 people dying while the healthcare industry makes tens of billions of dollars in profit. 5 minutes away from here, John, is a country. It's called Canada. They guarantee health care to every man, woman, and child as a human right. They spend half of what we spend. And by the way, when you end up in a hospital in Canada, you come out with no bill at all. Health care is a human right, not a privilege. I believe that. I will fight for that.
Thank you, Senator Sanders. Congressman Delaney?
Well, I'm right about this. We can create a universal health care system to give everyone basic health care for free, and I have a proposal to do it. But we don't have to go around and be the party of subtraction and telling half the country who has private health insurance that their health insurance is illegal. My dad, the union electrician, loved the health care he got from the IBEW. He would never want someone to take that away. Half of Medicare beneficiaries now have Medicare Advantage, which is private insurance, or supplemental plans. It's also bad policy. It'll underfund the industry. Many hospitals will close, and it's bad policy.
Senator Sanders,
my name was also mentioned in this.
We're going to come to you in 1 second, but let me go to Senator Sanders right now. Senator Sanders?
The fact of the matter is, tens of millions of people lose their health insurance every single year when they change jobs, when their employer changes that insurance. If you want stability in the healthcare system, if you want a system which gives you freedom of choice with regard to doctor or hospital, which is a system which will not bankrupt you, the answer is to get rid of the profiteering of the drug companies and the insurance companies, move to Medicare for all.
But now he's talking about a different issue. What I'm talking about is really simple. We should deal with the tragedy of the uninsured and give everyone health care as a right. But why do we got to be the party of taking something away from people?
No one is the party.
That's what they're running on. They're running on telling half the country that your health insurance is illegal. It says it right in the bill.
All right, thank you.
We don't have to do that. We can give everyone health care and allow people to have choice. That's the American way.
Look,
thank you, Congressman. Senator Warren?
So look, let's be clear about this. We are the Democrats. We are not about trying to take away health care from anyone. That's what the Republicans are trying to do. And we should stop using Republican talking points in order to talk with each other about how to best provide that health care. Now, I want to have a chance to tell the story about my friend, Addie Barkin. Addie is 35 years old. He has a wife, Rachel. He has a cute little boy named Carl. He also has ALS, and it's killing him. Addie has health insurance, good health insurance, and it's not nearly enough.
I'm staying with you. But you exceeded your time, and so let me just stay with you on Medicare for all.
All right.
At the last debate, you said you're, quote, with Bernie on Medicare for all. Now, Senator Sanders has said that people in the middle class will pay more in taxes to help pay for Medicare for all, though that will be offset by the elimination of insurance premiums and other costs. Are you also, quote, with Bernie on Medicare for all when it comes to raising taxes on middle-class Americans to pay for it?
Giant corporations and billionaires are going to pay more. Middle-class families are going to pay less out of pocket for their health care. And I'd like to finish talking about Addie, The guy who has ALS. This isn't funny. This is somebody who has health insurance and is dying. And every month, he has about $9,000 in medical bills that his insurance company won't cover. His wife, Rachel, is on the phone for hours and hours and hours begging the insurance company, please cover what the doctors say he needs. He talks about what it's like to go online with thousands of other people to beg friends, family, and strangers for money so he can cover his medical expenses. The basic profit model of an insurance company is taking as much money as you can in premiums and pay out as little as possible in health care coverage. That is not working for Americans across this country.
Thank you, Senator.
Medicare for All will fix that, and that's why I'll fight for it.
Thank you, Senator. Just a point of clarification in 15 extra seconds. Would you raise taxes on the middle class to pay for Medicare for All, offset obviously by the elimination of insurance premiums? Yes or no?
Costs will go up for billionaires and go up for corporations. For middle-class families, total costs will go down.
Governor Bullock, I want to bring you in. You do not support Medicare for All. How do you respond to Senator Warren?
No, health care is so personal to all of us. Never forget when my 12-year-old son had a heart attack within 24 hours of his life. Had to be life-flighted to Salt Lake City. But because we had good insurance, he's here with me tonight. At the end of the day, I'm not going to support any plan that rips away quality health care from individuals. This is an example of wish list economics. It used to be just Republicans who wanted to repeal and replace. Now many Democrats do as well. We can get there with a public option, negotiating drug prices, ending.
Thank you, Governor Bullock.
Bernie Sanders, you favor taking away people's private health insurance in exchange for, government approved, And it's like, yeah, you're asking that he's taking something away, which is the wrong framing. And number two, and then you're kind of throwing in there this, government provided insurance, which, the Republicans have basically effectively made government provided or government sponsored a dirty word. It was an extremely, extremely conservative talking point there. Mm-hmm. And I've been seeing some various things from Jake Tapper recently. I think he had an interview with one of the squad there recently. Do you know who I'm talking about? God, I can't remember her name right now. Edit. But he was, he was extremely he's telling her the Palestinian American woman. And he's telling her why do you criticize Israel so much when you don't criticize? Yeah. He's Rashida Tlaib. He's like, why do you criticize Israel so much when you don't criticize Saudi Arabia, or you don't want to boycott, divest, and et cetera, Saudi Arabia and Egypt and all these other countries? It's like.
So you talk about the hate agenda, and you have heard there have been criticisms of you from even your fellow Democrats, especially for your support for the BDS movement, which stands for Boycott, Divest, Sanction. It's an anti-Israel movement.
It's criticizing the racist policies of Israel, and it's a boycott, right? I think folks don't know when you say BDS, especially in the country, when you say BDS, they're not sure what it means.
Boycott, divest, sanction. I want to get your reaction to something that Senator Schumer said about BDS, which is a movement you support.
Yes.
He said, quote, when there is such a double standard, when the world treats everybody one way and the Jew or the Jewish state another way, there's only one word for it, anti-Semitism. Let us call out the BDS movement for what it is. And I think one of the questions that Senator Schumer and other supporters of Israel might have is, why focus on just Israel? Why not also call for sanctions against other countries where you might have issues, such as Egypt or Pakistan or Saudi Arabia?
Oh, absolutely. And I think if there was an economic boycott movement around Saudi Arabia, I'll be the first to sign up for it. I can tell you they're all around college campuses. There are Jews, Muslims, Hindus, all different kinds of backgrounds who are pushing back against racist policies in Israel because they see that the human rights violations of children being detained, the fact that my grandmother who lives in the West Bank right now does not have equality. She doesn't have freedom of travel. She is someone that right now under occupation is feeling less than. And I grew up in the most blackest, beautiful city in the country, where every corner in Detroit here, you will see a reminiscence of the civil rights movement, of the labor rights movement. And we did it through economic boycott. It is a form of freedom of speech. But people want to dismiss it because they're trying to say it's anti-Semitism. That's the way to trying to discredit the fact that we all know under Netanyahu's regime, human rights violations have gotten worse. And we need to be able to use...
Why not boycott Egypt? They have.
I would boycott Egypt, of course.
But you keep
I'm
saying
very critical.
You would boycott Saudi Arabia. You would boycott Egypt, but you're not.
Right now, there is not a bill or resolution on the floor that is saying stop boycotting Egypt.
But you could.
But of course, and I would absolutely oppose any sort of oppression, of freedom of speech, of First Amendment right in this country. It's a slippery slope, Jake, because tomorrow, if folks want to, boycott Saudi Arabia, and there's a movement and it's got a name, they're going to go ahead and pass a resolution saying you don't have freedom of speech, you don't have a right to First Amendment, you can't be double standard. But of course, I would oppose any kind of oppression of that sort, of freedom of dismissing somebody's right, First Amendment right. And we have cases around the country from teachers who don't even know what's going on in Israel, who do not feel like they should wipe away their First Amendment right to be able to speak out through economic boycott.
I know you want to talk about Michigan, so just let's last question on this. Do you think the Jewish people have the right to a state in the area where Israel exists now?
Look, I truly believe the state of Israel exists, correct? But understand, does it exist in the detriment of inequality for the Palestinian people? Detriment of not really moving forward in a peaceful resolution. We're never going to have peace, I truly believe, if separate but equal is the way they want to go. And I can tell you, I learned that from my African-American teachers in Detroit public schools who showed me what the pain of oppression looks like. We're not going to have peace if we don't understand that we are dehumanizing Palestinians every single day when we choose Israel over their rights.
But yes or no, does Israel have a right to exist?
Oh, of course.
Okay.
But just like Palestinians have a right to exist, Palestinians also have a right to human rights. We can't say one or the other. We have to say it in the same breath, or we're not going to actually have a peaceful resolution.
Dude, you are talking to a Palestinian American. Why are you asking her about countries that are not Palestine? It's like, number one, you're coming at this from the wrong, again, a very conservative kind of, framing. And number two, you're like asking a Palestinian, like, why don't you care about all the other countries as much as Palestine? Like, it's a stupid, it's a stupid framing. It's a stupid way to ask the question. And it ignores the obvious answer, which she didn't get into directly, but like she answered in a different way and also a smart way. But it's like, I don't know. You can't ask, like, I don't know. It's hard to even come up with a good example, but it's like, I don't know. You don't ask somebody who's like a German American, what do they think of Portuguese exports, right? It's just like, I mean, that's a bad analogy, but it's like, there's not even really a good analogy for it, but it's like, I don't know. It was just Jake Tapper has been very disappointing recently in a couple of instances, I think. So, but he didn't do himself many favors.
Tapper, but this time I didn't like the way he asked a lot of those questions. But
recently I've been noticing. I used to kind of like him too, or whatever. He's got a pretty good no nonsense kind of newsman, serious person vibe and everything. But recently he needs to course correct on that, or or whatever. Yeah. So, let's see. Yeah, Jake Tapper. I wrote this down, and again, my handwriting is so small, actually, it's kind of hard to read. Let's see. Jake Tapper's question. You support Medicare for all, which would eventually take private health care away from more than 150 million Americans in exchange for government-sponsored health care for everyone. And that was his question. Okay, so you want to take away health care from 150 million Americans. Wrong framing right off the bat. You're doing the Republicans' job for them. This is the Democratic debate, Tapper. And it just ridiculous question. Let's see. Well, let's see. Congressman Delaney jumped in. He said, let's see. Jake Tapper says, Congressman Delaney just referred to it as bad policy, and previously he has called the idea political suicide that will just get President Trump reelected. What do you say to Congressman Delaney? Bernie Sanders just said, you're wrong. Enough. Delaney says, well, I'm right about this. but we don't have to go around and be the party of subtraction. And at this point, Elizabeth Warren tried to jump in. My name was also mentioned there.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, then Delaney, but now he's talking about a different issue. But why do we got to be the party of taking anything away? And Warren said, no one is the party. We are the Democrats. We are not taking away health care from anyone. That's what the Republicans are trying to do. And we should stop using Republican talking points, which is, good. Yeah. So, yeah, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren both calling out the kind of the Republican framing of the debate by Tapper and Delaney and others. So,
yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, that was when Bullock jumped in at some point. I'll never forget when my 12-year-old son had a heart attack within 24 hours of his life. But because we had good insurance, something. Yeah, he's here with me tonight. He had to fight for his life. Sorry, my note taking was pretty shoddy this time. But yeah, we talked about that already. His tone was like really triumphant and stuff about private insurance and how it saved his son's life. It's like, okay, could government insurance have not done that? Do you think that would have not have done that because it saved your son's life? Do you think it's adequate for, all the millions of people in America? A lot of questions to that can come.
Yeah, I'm honestly pretty sick of the personal example thing when they used it to answer a question. Like, I was talking to Steve in Dayton, Ohio yesterday, and he told me that it's like, I don't care. And I have no way to fact check that either. There's no way I can find Steve in Ohio.
And this is something else that comes up to me. The news doesn't fact check it either. Like in the second debate, and this is something we'll get to tomorrow, Williamson, I think, went after Harris and said, you fought to prevent evidence from coming out that would have let an innocent man off of death row until the government basically made you do it. The judge made you do it. And it's like, okay, I want to read that story. CNN, Fox News, whoever, somebody get on that story. What exactly, who was the inmate? What was the crime? What was the situation? What did Harris do? Is Williamson right? We don't know. It's just a talking point in a fucking debate. It's like, yeah, I don't care about the personal stories. These are anecdotes. You don't win arguments with anecdotes, or you shouldn't. And number two, I'm tired of hearing about, like somebody, when I'm back in Colorado, we were the first state to da-da-da-da-da. It's like, yes, everybody has little, things that they can talk about that their state did that they're proud of. But it's like, I don't know. It's just like, you watch this thing for, 2.5 hours. And you come out and you remember who had a few zingers or something, but do you know exactly where everybody stood on every issue? You have no idea, because they've all equivocated and talked about, well, I support what you want, but I just don't think it's realistic, so I don't actually support it. It's like, do you actually have any idea where anybody really stands on things most of the time on every single issue after a 2.5 hour debate? No, because they're wasting time with a bunch of personal stories. And yeah, I got somebody in the audience tonight, and somebody died, and health insurance, and I don't know. It's just a bunch of, it's an old form of debating, I think, that is continuing, that is not conducive to people actually understanding where people stand. So
yeah, I also think, on a side note, I think somebody told Pete Buttigieg to say theoretical a lot and say things are not theoretical, because I think that he is probably rightly assuming that people mostly think he's too inexperienced and he's too young to be president and stuff. And so I think that, but I just keep noticing every time he answers in the first debate and then this one, he's always like, it's not theoretical for me. And it's like, okay, dude.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, there was another line that he had later in the debate, which was like, oh God, I don't know. I've got 2 pages of notes on this one, 2.5, 3 pages, 4 pages of notes, I guess. It's a mess. But he said, what did he say? He said, the racial divide lives within me because I'm an urban mayor. I'm like, dude, no, it doesn't. You're a white dude from Indiana, motherfucker. So am I. You know, it's the racial. I don't know. I mean, somebody like, Harris or, maybe Booker or somebody like that. They could say the racial divide maybe lives in them, maybe, right? But not Pete Buttigieg. And that was obviously like a preloaded line that he had. Who thought that was a good idea of a line? Who thought that?
Well, I guess they thought since Cory Booker and Kamala Harris weren't on the stage, maybe he could get away with it or something. So.
Yeah, it was a clunker for sure.
Yeah.
A little bit tone deaf.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. You could say, like, as the mayor of a town that has a large, African-American population, I deal with racial issues, but you can't say it lives inside of you. That's right up there with, like, when Beto O'Rourke said he was born for this. Like, it's like, cannot be determined. We don't know. We need to see more evidence. Need to see some evidence for that.
No citation found.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm looking for. So.
Right.
Yeah, it's a clunker. So I don't know. Anyways, the healthcare stuff continued.
I want to bring in Mayor Buttigieg on the topic of whether or not the middle class should pay higher taxes in exchange for guaranteed health care and the elimination of insurance premiums. How do you respond, Mayor?
So we don't have to stand up here speculating about whether the public option will be better than, or a Medicare for all environment will be better than the corporate options. We can put it to the test. That's the concept of my Medicare for all who want it proposal. That way, if people like me are right, that the public alternative is going to be not only more comprehensive, but more affordable than any of the corporate options around there. We'll see Americans walk away from the corporate options into that Medicare option, and it will become Medicare for all without us having to kick anybody off their insurance.
Just 15 seconds on the clarification. You are willing to raise taxes on middle-class Americans in order to have universal coverage with the disappearance of insurance premiums, yes or no?
I think you can buy into it. That's the idea of Medicare for all who want it. Look, this is a distinction without a difference whether you're paying the same money in the form of taxes or premiums. Look, in this country, if you have health coverage, if you don't have health coverage, you're paying too much for care. And if you do have health coverage, you're paying too much for care.
I want to bring in Congressman O'Rourke on the topic of whether the middle class should pay higher taxes in exchange for universal coverage and the elimination of insurance premiums. What's your response?
The answer is no. The middle class will not pay more in taxes in order to ensure that every American is guaranteed world-class health care. I think we're being offered a false choice. Some who want to improve the Affordable Care Act at the margins, others who want a Medicare for all program that will force people off of private insurance. I have a better path. Medicare for America. Everyone who's uninsured is enrolled in Medicare tomorrow. Those who are insufficiently insured are enrolled in Medicare.
Just 15 seconds.
And those who have employer-sponsored insurance.
Jake, this is important. Who's offering a false choice here?
You have some. Governor Bullock, who said that we will improve the Affordable Care Act at the margins with a public option. You have others to my right who are talking about taking away people's choice for the private insurance they have or members of unions. I was listening to D. Taylor in Nevada. His members
said you're offering a false choice, sir.
Congressman, not at all. You know, it took us decades and false starts to get the Affordable Care Act. So let's actually build on it. A public option allowing anyone to buy in. You know, we pay more for prescription drugs than any place actually in the world. We got nothing to show for it. Negotiate prescription drug prices. Enterprise medical billing. That's the way that we can get there without disrupting the lives of 160 million people that like their employer-sponsored health insurance.
Congressman O'Rourke, every estimate that I've seen of expanding ACA, even through a public option, still leaves millions of people uninsured and also means that people are not guaranteed the health care that they need. As the example that Senator Warren showed us, our plan ensures that everyone is enrolled in Medicare or can keep their employer-sponsored insurance. When we listen to the American people, and this is what they want us to do, they want everyone covered, but they want to be able to maintain choice, and our plan does that.
Thank you, Congressman. I want to bring in Senator Klobuchar. Senator Warren, at the beginning of the night, said that Democrats cannot win the White House with small ideas and spinelessness. In the last debate, she said, the politicians who are not supporting Medicare for all simply lack the will to fight for it. You do not support Medicare for all. Is Senator Warren correct? Do you just not lack the will to fight for it?
That is incorrect. I just have a better way to do this. And in one of my first debates, Jake, I was called a street fighter from the Iron Range by my opponent. And when she said it, I said, thank you. So this is what I think we need to get done. We need the public option. That's what Barack Obama wanted, and it would bring health care costs down for everyone. And by the way, I just don't buy this. I've heard some of these candidates say that it's somehow not moral not moral to not have that public option. Well, Senator Sanders was actually on a public option bill last year, and that was Bernie, the Medicaid public option bill that Senator Schatz introduced. Clearly, this is the easiest way to move forward quickly, and I want to get things done. People can't wait. I've got my friend Nicole out there whose son was actually died trying to ration his insulin as a restaurant manager, and he died because he didn't have enough money to pay for it.
Senator,
and Bernie and I have worked on pharmaceutical issues together. We can get less
Senator Sanders. I'm going to go to Senator Sanders, then Senator Warren, because we both would mention.
The author of the Medicare bill, let me clear up one thing. As people talk about having insurance, there are millions of people who have insurance. They can't go to the doctor, and when they come out of the hospital, they go bankrupt. All right? What I am talking about, and others up here are talking about, is no deductibles and no co-payments. And Jake, your question is a Republican talking point. At the end of the day, and by the way, the healthcare industry will be advertising tonight on this program.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Warren, it's your turn.
Oh, can I complete that, please?
Your time is up, 30 seconds.
They will be advertising tonight with that talking point.
Senator Warren.
So we have to think of this in terms of the big frame. What's the problem in Washington? It works great for the wealthy. It works great for those who can hire armies of lobbyists and lawyers. And it keeps working great for the insurance companies and the drug companies. What it's going to take is real courage to fight back against them. These insurance companies do not have a God-given right to make $23 billion in profits and suck it out of our healthcare system.
Thank you, Senator.
They do not have a God-given right to put forms in place.
It said that it would take everyone off of their insurance.
Thank you, Senator. If we could all just stick to the rules of the time, that would be great. Congressman Delaney.
I'm the only one on the stage who actually has experience in the healthcare business, and with all due respect, I don't think my colleagues understand the business. We have the public option, which is great. The public option is great, but it doesn't go far enough. It doesn't go far enough. I'm proposing universal health care, where everyone gets health care as a basic human right for free, but they have choices. My plan, Better Care, is fully paid for without raising middle-class tax options. So when we think about this debate, there's Medicare for all, which is extreme.
I want to bring in Governor Hickenlooper. Governor Hickenlooper, I'd like to hear what you have to say about Senator Warren's suggestion that those people on the stage who are not in favor of Medicare for all lack the political will to fight for it.
Well, obviously, I disagree with that as much as I respect both of the senators to my right. You know, I think it comes down to that question of Americans being used to being able to make choices, to have the right to make a decision. And I think proposing a public option that allows some form of Medicare, that maybe is a combination of Medicare Advantage and Medicare, but people choose it, and if enough people choose it, it expands, the quality improves, the cost comes down, more people choose it. Eventually, in 15 years, you could get there, but it would be an evolution, not a revolution.
Thank you, Governor. Senator Warren.
You know, we have tried this experiment with the insurance companies. And what they've done is they've sucked billions of dollars out of our healthcare system. And they force people to have to fight to try to get the healthcare coverage that their doctors and nurses say that they need. Why does every doctor, why does every hospital have to fill out so many complicated forms? It's because it gives insurance companies a chance to say no and to push that cost back on the patients.
Thank you, Senator Warren. I want to bring in Marianne Williamson. Ms. Williamson, how do you respond to the criticism from Senator Warren that you're not willing to fight for Medicare for all?
I don't know if Senator Warren said that about me specifically. I admire very much what Senator Warren has said and what Bernie has said. But I have to say, I'm normally way over there with Bernie and Elizabeth on this one. I hear the others, and I have some concern about that as well. And I do have concern about what the Republicans would say, and that's not just a Republican talking point. I do have concern that it will be difficult. I have concern that it will make it harder to win, and I have a concern that it will make it harder to govern. Because if that's our big fight, then the Republicans will so shut us down on everything else.
Mayor Buttigieg,
it is time to stop worrying about what the Republicans will say. Look, if it's true that if we embrace a far-left agenda, they're going to say we're a bunch of crazy socialists. If we embrace a conservative agenda, you know what they're going to do? They're going to say we're a bunch of crazy socialists. So let's just stand up for the right policy, go out there and defend it. That's the policy I'm putting forward, not because I think it's the right triangulation between Republicans here and Democrats there, because I think it's the right answer for people like my mother-in-law, who is here, whose life was saved by the ACA, but who is still far too vulnerable to the fact that the insurance industry does not care about her.
Senator Sanders, your response?
Let's be clear what this debate is about. Nobody can defend the dysfunctionality of the current system. What we are taking on is the fact that over the last 20 years, the drug companies and the insurance companies have spent $4.5 billion of your health insurance money on lobbying and campaign contributions. That is why, when I went to Canada the other day, people paid 1/10 the price in Canada for insulin that they're paying in the United States.
I want to bring in Congressman Tim Ryan. Congressman Ryan, your response?
So here we are in Detroit, home of the United Auto Workers. We have all our union friends here tonight. This plan that's being offered by Senator Warren and Senator Sanders will tell those union members who gave away wages in order to get good health care that they're going to lose their health care because Washington's going to come in and tell them they got a better plan. This is the left and right thing. New and better is this. Move Medicare down to 50. Allow people to buy in. Kaiser Permanente said that if those 60 million people do that, they will see a 40% reduction in their health care costs. Let businesses buy in, Jake.
So, Senator, let's talk about that. If Medicare for All is enacted, there are more than 600,000 union members here in Michigan who would be forced to give up their private health care plans. Now, I understand that it would provide universal coverage, but can you guarantee those union members that the benefits under Medicare for All will be as good as the benefits that their representatives, their union reps, fought hard to negotiate?
Well, two things. They will be better because Medicare for All is comprehensive. It covers all health care needs for senior citizens. It will finally include dental care, hearing aids, and eyeglasses.
But you don't know
Second of all,
you don't know that,
second
Bernie.
of all,
We'll come to you in a second,
I do know, and I wrote the damn bill. Second of all, many of our union brothers and sisters, nobody more pro-union than me up here, are now paying high deductibles and co-payments. And when we do Medicare for All, instead of having the company putting money into health care, they can get decent wage increases, which they're not getting today.
I want to bring in Congressman Ryan to respond to what Senator Sanders has said.
Senator Sanders does not know all of the union contracts in the United States. I'm trying to explain that these union members are losing their jobs. Their wages have been stagnant. The world is crumbling around them. The only thing they have is possibly really good health care. And the Democratic message is going to be, we're going to go in, and the only thing you have left, we're going to take it, and we're going to do better. I do not think that's a recipe for success for us. It's bad policy, and it's certainly bad politics.
Congressman Delaney?
So the bill that Senator Sanders drafted, by definition, will lower quality in health care because it says specifically that the rates will be the same as current Medicare rates. And the data is clear. Medicare does not cover the cost of health care. It covers 80% of the cost of health care in this country. And private insurance covers 120%. So if you start underpaying all the health care providers, you're going to create a two-tier market where wealthy people buy their health care with cash, and the people who are forced, like my dad, the union electrician, will have that health care plan taken away from him.
Thank you, Congressman.
They will be forced into an underfunded system.
I want to give Senator Sanders a chance to respond.
Under Medicare for All, the hospitals will save substantial sums of money because they're not going to be spending a fortune doing billing and the other bureaucratic things that they have to do today.
I've done
Second
the math,
of all,
it doesn't add up.
maybe you did that and made money off of health care, but our job is to run a non-profit health care system. Furthermore, when we save $500 billion a year by ending all of the incredible complexities that are driving every American crazy. Trying to deal with the health insurance company.
Thank you,
Hospitals
Senator.
will be better
Congressman
off
Delaney, I
than they
want
are
to let you
today.
have a chance to respond.
Listen, his math is wrong. That's all I'm saying. That his math is wrong. It's been well documented that if all the bills were paid at Medicare rate, which is specifically, I think it's in Section 1200 of their bill, then many hospitals in this country would close. I've been going around rural America, and I ask rural hospital administrators one question. If all your bills were paid at the Medicare rate last year, what would happen? And they all look at me and say, we would close. But the question is, why do we have to be so extreme? Why can't we just give everyone health care as a right and allow them to have choice? I'm starting to think this is not about health care. This is an anti-private sector strategy.
We're going to move on to the issue of immigration now. There is...
Let's see. He said wish list economics. Republicans want to repeal, and it used to be Republicans wanted to repeal in place, but now Democrats want to repeal and replace Obamacare too. Buttigieg says Medicare for all who want it. He said he had another line. In this country, if you don't have health coverage, you're paying too much for it, health care. And if you do have health care coverage, you're paying too much for health care. So kind of a good line from Buttigieg. We just said a bad line. Now there's a good line. Mm-hmm. Let's see. O'Rourke said no one in the middle class will pay more in taxes. Bullock said others to my right are offering a false choice. No, O'Rourke said Bullock and others to my right, which means Bernie and Elizabeth Warren, are offering a false choice. Yeah. Klobuchar. I was called a street fighter from the Iron Range by my opponent, and when she said it, I said, thank you. Okay. I don't know what, I don't know. Bob, I'm really, really, really looking forward to when we can get this down to one debate stage, and a lot of the chafe has been stripped away from this thing, because, it's frustrating. Like, when just a few weeks after the first time, we did a lot of work for the first two debates, and stuff. It took a lot of time. And it's like, I want to get it down to where I'm watching one debate, not two debates within 48 hours of each other. It's like 24 hours of each other. It's
like five. It's 5 hours even without the commercials, like, to watch all these debates. And it's like, you don't need these many people. Like, I think it's going to be down to one stage next time, because I think they've only said that 8 people have gotten into the one in September. I'll have to look that up, but
yeah. Well, they've still got a month and a half or whatever to do it. So
right.
Oh, wait. Yeah. Wait. Hold on. Let me think about that. No, half a month. What is it now?
I don't know.
August 8th.
Look up.
Yeah, August 8th. So August, September. So yeah, like about a month, I guess. But they still got a month to hit that number for everybody. But yeah, I'm really, really, really looking forward to getting rid of some of these people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know.
Not to extend this out even further, but I was listening to a New York Times podcast yesterday, and they were talking about how they basically have created, through the DNC's rules, this they try to get $1 donations from people, because that counts as a single donation, and that's how you qualify for the. They're
spending
debates.
like $1.20 to get $1 back.
Oh, way more than that. I think they're spending like $70 to get one new dollar. It's like 70 to 1. So basically, they have to get money from rich people to get money from poor people, just so it counts as more times that being donated. I don't know. It's insane.
Yeah. And it's a perverse incentive structure. And it's an understandable thing how we got here. But you take one look at that New York Times map of donors across the country, and you see, like almost everything in this Democratic primary, Bernie set the mold and did the thing organically. And now everybody else is playing catch up with that and trying to do it inorganically. And it's just go with what's real, people, So I don't know. But yeah, I want these people, a lot of them, I want them gone for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Sanders at one point here said, and Jake, your question is a Republican talking point, which was, a good line. And then he started to say something else about, the healthcare industry will be advertising on this tonight on the thing, and Jake Tapper heard him along and stuff, and he jumped in and shot in another line about how, oh, you're gonna edit me now, or you're gonna cut me off now. Okay, whatever. Let's see. Warren said these insurance companies do not have a God-given right to make $23 billion in profits and suck it out of our healthcare system, which is, I think an important point. It's like, yeah, we keep talking about like these people are at the table and they deserve to have their place at the table. It's like, maybe they don't. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So that was that. Hickenlooper and Williamson said something I didn't really record. Williamson seemed like, okay, Williamson's interesting because they tried to play her against Bernie and Warren there too. And she said, well, I'm usually right there way over there with Bernie and Elizabeth Warren, but I can see the other people's point on this too. And da-da-da-da-da. And then there was an interview with Cenk Uygur on Young Turks right after the debate. And she basically walked back and said, like, he said, well, you're on the same side as like, as Hickenlooper and the other guy or whatever or something. And she said, oh, I didn't even realize that. I don't want to be over there. Gosh, I think I'm going to have to reconsider. He's like, well, can I get you to change your opinion right now? And she's like, well, I'm going to reconsider it. And I don't want to see myself as being on that side of the party or something. So you might drop that audio in there if possible. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, I didn't agree with your answer, but you did kill it on a couple of other issues, okay?
And you know what? When I said what I said, I felt dirty after I said it. I felt like, I maybe had to say it. The needle really moved for me on that tonight. Because hearing it from them and having to say to myself, you're agreeing with John Delaney here. You're really being pulled over here. I could just feel, I felt I was going to have people like yourself, like on my text. No! I still have a little question, and I still have that little bit, Cenk, on the insurance.
Let's talk about that for a second, since we're already mid-conversation on that. So there is this irony that you score so well when you talk against corporate rule, and you did it again tonight. And on the issue of Medicare for All, you seem like, you're stuck on that one. It feels like you're almost in mid-evolution.
I am, but I am. And that's the truth of the matter. But I think the needle moved left today.
That's really interesting. So you think the needle moved for you a little bit when you saw yourself in the middle of the debate agreeing with John Delaney?
Yeah.
So that makes you more likely to think about it more and maybe move more towards...
I mean, I've heard you, I've heard Elizabeth, I've heard Bernie, I've heard Mr. Leidy. I also have a lot of people I respect who, as one friend of mine said, Americans don't like to be told they can't have mustard on their hot dog. I get that too. Congressman Hodes here, I don't know if you're Paul Hodes, I've had many hours of conversation about this. In fact, he was on the conversation with Michael Leidy the other day. You're going to have to give me a little more time, but the needle moved for me tonight.
So just so that people are clear, because it's really important, because a lot of people heard you as kind of for a middle position and not necessarily for Medicare for All tonight. But you're leaving the door open to being for Medicare for All in the future?
But as I said to you the other day, but even Bernie's plan talks about a 4-year transition. Congresswoman Diapol's plan talks about a 2-year transition. So they're basically, the only thing that it seems to me we're talking about here is the issue of whether or not people will be able to keep their private insurance. Because they're transitional as well. Am I wrong about this?
So they do have a transition that gets to Medicare for All. And so the argument that I think you made tonight will sound to people like you don't want to eventually wind up there.
No. Oh, God, no. Oh, my goodness. Oh, I've never been that. No. Oh, no. That's really depressing that it sounded that way. Yeah. No.
So then what do you view as the role for private insurance? Let's put it this way, eventually. Any role...
Eventually.
Okay.
Eventually they're gone. They perform as greedily as Elizabeth, for instance, was saying tonight. It is horrible. They take a lot of money and give as little care as possible. I'm very aware of that. I remember when I had my own daughter. And the doctor didn't want me to have to leave the hospital that fast. And the insurance companies made me. And that was an experience of that. You know, my daughter's 29 years old, and I remember how angry the doctor was. And it was my first real exposure to my personal experience. He didn't want me to leave that fast. So I get that. There's no ambiguity about that for me. It's a terrible, terrible example of corporate greed and all that. My only issue is that, you know, that some people want it for whatever reason, and this idea of taking it away from people, I'm not totally there yet.
Marianne, I actually want to give you credit for something unprecedented. I have never seen anyone in a political debate come out of a debate and say, I was somewhat persuaded by the ideas of the people I was debating. I've literally never seen that in my life.
I was going to text you. Tonight. I didn't know you were going to be here. No.
Yeah. No.
Well,
look,
we're talking the gold standard here. We're talking Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. So, you know.
Yeah. No, that level of open-mindedness you will never see from a politician because they're too scripted.
You just heard it from me.
Okay, there you have it.
I'm a new kind of politician.
Okay, excellent.
That's part of the point here.
Exactly. But I actually want to ask you about two things where I thought you did great. When you talked about reparations and you said that it was a debt that is owed, I felt it resonate in the room. Have you used that terminology before? Because it seemed to really land a punch.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I've had a career for 35 years working with issues of personal transformation. All a country is a collection of people. So whether you're an individual or a country, you can't have the future you want until and unless you're willing to clean up the past. You got to clean up your past relationships or its energy stays stuck. So I'm not minimizing the struggles or sacrifices of any of our ancestors, black or white. I'm not saying there's been no success. I'm not minimizing the Civil Rights Act. I'm not minimizing the Voting Rights Act, although of course it's been chipped away at. But the issue of economic restitution is just a piece we haven't gotten to yet. And so the economic gap that existed at the end of the Civil War has never been closed. And at that time, Tecumseh Sherman promised to every former slave family of 4, 40 acres and a mule. In the vast majority of cases, it wasn't given. Even when it was given, the vast majority of those, it was taken back. So that gap was never closed. And I think most Americans might not have really allowed themselves to think about what we're talking about here. We're talking about, by the way, I want to go, well, I'll go back to that in a minute. Let's stay with the race, and then I have to go back to the health care and the Medicare for all. We're talking about 250 years of slavery that was followed by another 100 years of domestic terror and institutionalized violence against black people. And what do you call Ku Klux Klan and lynchings if not domestic terror? You're talking 350 years of institutionalized violence against black people. That is longer than the United States has even been in existence. Now, at the end of World War II, Germany paid $89 billion in reparations to Jewish organizations. And that has gone far towards establishing reconciliation between Germany and the Jews of Germany and the rest of Europe. Ronald Reagan in 1988 signed the Civil Liberties Act, where we gave to every surviving prisoner during World War II, the Japanese internment camp, between $20,000 and $22,000. So paying restitution and paying reparations is not a fringe idea. The reason I like reparations as opposed to race-based policies. Race-based policies doesn't speak to whose fault it is. Reparations carry moral force. It's not just about economic restitution. It is an inherent mea culpa. It is an acknowledgement of a debt that is owed. It is the acknowledgement of the willingness on the part of a nation to pay it and payment rendered.
Marianne, I'll return the favor. I was unsure about how to execute reparations. When I heard you say it is a debt that is owed, it resonated with me. And it made me start to think, well, that's literal. This country owes a debt to those people who worked all those years and never got the fruits of their labor. And so thank you for bringing that forward today. Appreciate it.
And many cases in which black wealth has been accumulated, and then there have been state and local efforts to thwart that.
Yep.
So you've affected my thinking so much that it's nice to think I affected yours on that.
All right. Thank you so much, Marianne. Really appreciate it.
And I'm horrified to think I sounded like I didn't want to get there at all. Oh, my God.
Okay. That's
You'll
okay.
have to help me on that.
Okay.
You'll have to help me. Have me on your show. I'm not that bad. I was never that bad. Never.
Yeah, what do you think of her? Like, apparently she's getting some kind of foothold based on her debate performances here.
Yeah, I'm amused by her charms, of which she has some. So,
But do you think she's like the left's Trump in some ways?
I don't think that she would be the best president.
But she says a lot of like sweeping things that don't have a lot of basis in policy or fact necessarily, but it's like she, like you were talking about her like closing speech last time, like I will meet you on that field and stuff. Like this is
Mr.
like
President, I will win. We will win. Love will win. Something, yeah. She's got a penchant for the dramatic,
yeah,
and kind of the epic or something. But I don't know. I don't know. I think like a year from now we're going to be saying Marianne who, and she doesn't have a background in politics, so I don't see her getting like a position in government from the eventual winners. So I don't know what, maybe more book sales is what's in her future. I don't know. Maybe she'll run for something out in California or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, we've got these people like her and Yang and people like that who are definitely raising their own profiles through this thing. So I don't know. I just think like, I don't know. She seems like a nice lady. She's not bad on some things. She has some very problematic views and history on other things. It seems like she was a little bit into the anti-vaxxer thing, maybe, and maybe she was a little bit into the antidepressants cause depression thing, or she's got some views that were, they're fine for a hot take on a Facebook meme, but we don't really need the president to be espousing them.
Well, you might be in luck because I just looked at the list of the 8 candidates that have qualified for the next debate, and it is actually the benchmark is on September 12th and September 13th. Candidates need to have 130,000 unique donors and register at least 2% in the polls. So I think we can say goodbye to the Delaney, Hickenlooper, Ryan contingent. So basically the 8 that have qualified thus far are Biden, Booker, Buttigieg, Harris, Klobuchar, O'Rourke, Sanders, and Warren.
Okay.
So that's getting closer to brass tacks. So.
Yeah. I think that'll be a good day.
Mm-hmm.
So, but Ryan and Hickenlooper and Delaney have done their job. They've put in their work here this time, so they've accomplished their mission or whatever. I think so. But yeah, but it's kind of comical because these guys were, if they wanted to come and fight Warren and Bernie, they were definitely caught flat-footed in almost every exchange, I think. So, let's see. Delaney said, "I'm the only one on this stage who has experience in the healthcare business." And Bernie shouted, "Yep." And he says, "And I don't think that my colleagues understand the business." And then Bernie shouted, "It's not a business." Just like in the background, he's yelling off screen. So, yeah, it's that was good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, when he started that line, like Bernie was ready. He was waiting for that. He's like, I don't think he likes Delaney because Delaney was making money in the healthcare industry before. So Hickenlooper and Williamson said something. Buttigieg says, it is time, like, because Williamson said something. I do kind of worry that if we go too far left on the healthcare stuff, then the Republicans will criticize us for that, and then we won't have an easy time to get anything else done. And there is a thing where presidents are able to get a little bit done in their first 100 days. They get one major thing done usually or whatever. And then after that, politics as usual sets in, and inertia and the resistance and stuff and infighting and all that stuff happens. So she sort of had a point, but Buttigieg said it's time to stop worrying about what the Republicans will say. He says, look, if it's true that we say we're going to embrace a far left agenda, they're going to say we're a bunch of crazy socialists. If we embrace a conservative agenda, you know what they're going to do? They're going to say we're a bunch of crazy socialists. So let's just stand up for the right policy and go out there and defend it. And
that was a great line. Yeah.
Yeah. Buttigieg, like I said, he had some bad lines and clunkers in this debate, but he had some good moments too, definitely, that were definitely kind of preloaded, pre-recorded, pre-memorized things, but they nonetheless effective. So.
Yeah, I think you're right about him. He'll probably eventually be like a vice presidential candidate. I don't see him going all the way with it. I think he's a smart, capable guy. I just feel like he's not. I don't know. He's missing something as far as like I don't know. Do black people like him at all? Because that seems to be a problem. So
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Like I like him okay, but you don't need to win me in the South or whatever or the black vote that you need to turn out in record numbers to put this over the edge. So, but
yeah, I think the Stranger did a thing after the first debate, like they had a question about who do you want to have sex with in the Democratic debate, and like for Mayor Pete Buttigieg was like way overrepresented in the like over 55 age demographic, like so our parents' generation apparently thinks Pete Buttigieg is very sexy. It's like for 50% of them, you got to realize he's not for you or something. It's like, so yeah, it was a weird moment. It was a weird poll, but it was an interesting thing. So yeah. And by the way, I guess we should mention on there also the Beto O'Rourke. Beto O'Rourke's voice kind of bothers me. I mean, we talked about that other guy. I forget his name already.
Steve Bullock.
Yeah, Steve Bullock's tone bothers me, but Beto O'Rourke also kind of bothers me. He's got this. He feels like a person who doesn't naturally have a deep voice, but he's trying to deepen his voice when he talks or something. I don't know. Maybe he does have a naturally deep voice, but he's this beanstalk of a man. It's like I don't know. It just rubbed me the wrong way.
Kudos to him though. He had a good reaction to the mass shooting in El Paso. He basically was like, connect the dots, people. The president says racist things. The shooter cites the racist things as his reason. There's a connection here.
Is there anything in your mind that the president can do now to make this any better?
What do you think? The shit he's been saying. He's been calling Mexican immigrants rapists and criminals. I don't know, like members of the press. What the? Hold on a second. It's these questions that the answers to. I mean, connect the dots about what he's been doing in this country. He's not tolerating racism. He is promoting racism. He's not tolerating violence. He's inciting racism and violence in this country. So, I don't know what kind of question that is.
So,
yeah. Well, yeah, he started yelling at the reporters and cussing and stuff. I don't know. It almost made me wonder if he had set up that question. It feels like did you ever see that British comedian? I forget his name, Jonathan something or other. I forget the guy's name. He acts like he's a reporter who's just like getting ready for his shoot. And then somebody asks him, well, what do you think about the prime minister? And he's like, let me tell you about the prime minister. And he yells at the camera for 5 minutes. Or why did Donald Trump win? Why? He's like, let me tell you why. It's because, and Hillary Clinton, they thought she was going to,
yeah.
He works himself up into a froth and stuff. And it just feels like very manufactured in that way. Like, you ask me a question and I'm going to get righteously indignant right after it. I'm just let me go. Okay. Just let me go.
Morning. Morning. What? No, I only just fucking got here. No, I only just fucking got here. Yeah. Morning, Tim. Morning. Howdy. How was Washington? Great. Fucking sweet. Yep. What? I'm not shocked at all, Tim. Tim, I haven't even been into makeup yet, Tim. I'm not shocked at all. I've been saying this for fucking months. Nearly a year. The moment you think he can't do it is the moment he takes the White House. Of course Trump fucking won. What is everyone so fucking shocked about? Jesus, the media, the political elite, the pollsters, the markets, you. A draw on the floor. How can everyone be so fucking stupid? Hillary Clinton. What were the Democrats thinking? Hillary Clinton. Don't get me wrong, I wanted Hillary to win. I'd personally vote for Lucifer over Donald Trump. Trump, the pussy-grabbing, wall-building, climate-change-denying, health-care abolishing, tax-dodging, shit-spewing demagogue. How shit have you got to be to lose to that? Where was Sanders? Why wasn't he on the ticket? I have no doubt in my mind that Sanders would have beaten Trump hands down. But instead, they chose Clinton, a candidate who's been cozying up to the banks and dry-humping corporations for years, who is on record telling her corporate friends that you should have a public and a private persona. In other words, don't tell the truth to the plebs or you won't be able to rip them off. She'll do. That was the feeling. What did they think was going to happen? People keep saying to me, how did this happen? They're dumbfounded, but it's so simple. The left did this. This is my fault, people like me. When are we going to learn? The left have given up putting any argument across at all, to the point where Clinton is considered left, liberal. On many issues, Theresa May is less right-wing than Clinton. That's just a fucking fact. And yet my friends are on Facebook saying, I'm with her. I'm fucking not. Oh, but she's better than Trump. Sorry, that's not good enough. Clearly it's not good enough. And if I see, fuck me, one more tweet containing a hashtag Trump wins next to a hashtag everyday sexism, I'm going to drop a fucking bollock. Not everyone that voted for Trump is a sexist or a racist. Some of them are, but most aren't. Most people didn't vote for her, not because she's a woman. They didn't vote for her because she offered no palpable change whatsoever. Same old shit. Trump represents a change, a terrifying change, but a change nonetheless. Hillary represented, well, she represented very little, actually, because she protects corporate interests, because she doesn't call the police when questions from the debate are leaked to her in advance. I noticed we barely reported that. Not everyone that voted for Trump is a sexist or a racist. How many times does the vote not have to go our way before we realise that our argument isn't won by hurling labels and insults? Tory majority, government, Brexit, Trump. What next? When will we learn that the key is discussion? If you are unwilling to discuss, then you are creating the conditions in which Donald Trump and people like him can thrive. But instead of persuading people to vote, she just courted celebrity endorsements and then lost. What's going on? It's almost as if the political acumen of Beyonce and Jay-Z count for nothing. And then she loses it and loses the election, and she locks herself in her hotel because she's too upset, or because it had never occurred to them to even write a concession speech. Either way, grow up. I have no sympathy for her whatsoever. Be a better candidate. But the thing is, I can't say that. I can't say this to any of my friends, Tim. People like me. I'd get fucking lynched if I said this, because people like me won't listen. I did this. This is my fault. Fucking Donald Trump. The left is responsible for this result, because the left have now decided that any other opinion, any other way of looking at the world is unacceptable. We don't debate anymore because the left won the cultural war. So if you're on the right, you're a freak. You're evil, you're racist, you're stupid. You are a basket of deplorables. How do you think people are going to vote if you talk to them like that? When has anyone ever been persuaded by being insulted or labelled? So now, if you're on the right or even against the prevailing view, you are attacked for raising your opinion. That's why people wait until they're in the voting booth. No one's watching anymore. There's no blame or shame or anything, and you can finally say what you really think, and that is a powerful thing. The Tories in charge, Brexit, and now Trump. And all the polls were wrong, all of them, because when asked, people can't admit what they think. They can't admit what they think. They're not allowed to. The left don't allow them to. We have made people unable to articulate their position for fear of being shut down. They're embarrassed to say it. Every time someone on the left has said, you mustn't say that, they are contributing to this culture. It's time to stop moaning. It's time to stop crying over spilt fucking Brexit. It's time to stop ignoring your opponents, or worse, trying to silence them. It's time to stop banning people from speaking in universities. It's time to stop thinking that reposting an article on your Facebook feed is political engagement, that banning a gymnast from doing what he's good at because he insulted someone's religion somehow achieved something. And sorry, when did the Gymnast Association start thinking it was appropriate to start enforcing blasphemy laws? It's time to realise that reading The Guardian doesn't make you a liberal, that retweeting Greenpeace doesn't lower your carbon footprint. And if my mansplaining is triggering you, you can either fuck off to your safe space, or you can engage and debate me and tell me what I'm getting wrong. Because Trump just won the White House. Being offended doesn't work anymore. Throwing insults doesn't work anymore. The only thing that works is fucking bothering, doing something. And all you have to do is engage in the debate. Talk to people who think differently to you and persuade them of your argument. It's so easy, and the left have lost the art. Stop thinking that everyone who disagrees with you is evil or racist or sexist or stupid, and talk to them. Persuade them otherwise, because if you don't, I'll tell you what you get. You get President Trump. Right, I need to go for a shit and a shave. How long we got, Tim? All right, I might need to have to forego the shit.
It's like, it's really annoying in a way, but...
Jonathan Pye.
Okay, yeah, that guy. So yeah, at first, like the first time I saw it, when like right after the election, and I thought he was actually a reporter who was reacting naturally, I was like, okay, it's a little bit overblown, but okay, he's, you know, reacting in the moment and stuff. We've all done that and stuff, but then you find out that it's all scripted and that, like, you know, this is his shtick. It's like, okay, yeah, it's a little lame. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like that. What was that movie from the 1990s where you had the president, Warren Beatty, who was rapping or something, and he was supposed to be connecting with Americans in a real authentic way? It's like, ugh.
Yeah,
oh,
what
God.
was that? What was that movie? Oh man, it's on the tip of my tongue. Bulworth.
Yeah. It's like kind of like one of those movies, or like maybe like you know, Love Actually, where you have the British Prime Minister or whatever telling the American who's pushing him too hard, like, no, we're not your little dog, or something like that. And it's like you have these movies and stuff, especially out of Britain, it seems, that where they have this fantasy of a politician who's gonna like tell it like it is and stand up to the big people or something. It's like, yeah, it's cute as a fantasy, but be realistic a little bit. And same thing with the, you know, the reporter. We want to have a reporter who's going to say what they really feel. It's like, okay, watch alternative media. You can get that naturally, not this kind of manufactured stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Then there was, like, anyways, continuing with the thing, there was a prolonged exchange. Ryan said, what about the unions? Basically, you're going to lose your health care, you know, more right-wing talking points, except for the unions part. Bernie said it'll include dental care, hearing aids, and eyeglasses. And Ryan kind of meekly jumped in there. But you don't know that, Bernie. And Bernie continues, second of all, I do know it. I wrote the damn bill. Second of all, many of our union brothers and sisters, nobody more pro-union than me up here, are now paying high deductibles and co-payments. And he rolled over. I mean, he just jumped in there and stuff. It was crazy. Ryan then continued, these union members are losing their jobs. Their wages have been stagnant. The world is crumbling around them. The only thing they have is possibly really good health care. And like, you're going to take it away. It's like, oh, okay. Just doom and gloom.
There is widespread agreement on this stage on the need for immigration reform, a pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants, including Dreamers. But there are some areas of disagreement. Mayor Buttigieg, you're in favor of getting rid of the law that makes it a crime to come across the U.S. border illegally. Why won't that just encourage more illegal immigration?
When I'm president, illegally crossing the border will still be illegal. We can argue over the finer points of which parts of this ought to be handled by civil law and which parts ought to be handled by criminal law. But we've got a crisis on our hands. And it's not just a crisis of immigration, it's a crisis of cruelty and incompetence that has created a humanitarian disaster on our southern border. It is a stain on the United States of America. Americans want comprehensive immigration reform. And frankly, we've been talking about the same framework for my entire adult lifetime. Protections for Dreamers, making sure that we have a pathway to citizenship for the undocumented, cleaning up lawful immigration. We know what to do. We know that border security can be part of that package, and we can still be a nation of laws. The problem is we haven't had the will to get it done in Washington. And now we have a president who could fix it in a month, because there is that bipartisan agreement. But he needs it to be a crisis rather than an achievement. That will end on my watch.
Just a point of clarification. You did raise your hand in the last debate. You do want to decriminalize crossing the border illegally.
So in my view, if fraud is involved, then that's suitable for the criminal statute. If not, then it should be handled under civil law. But these show of hands are exactly what is wrong with the way that this race is being covered.
We're not doing that here.
We appreciate that.
Thank you. Congressman O'Rourke, you live near the U.S.-Mexico border in El Paso. You disagree with Mayor Buttigieg on decriminalizing legal border crossings. Please respond.
I do, because in my administration, after we have waived citizenship fees for green card holders, more than 9 million of our fellow Americans, freed Dreamers from any fear of deportation, and stopped criminally prosecuting families and children for seeking asylum and refuge, end for-profit detention in this country, and then assist those countries in Central America so that no family ever has to make that 2,000-mile journey, then I expect that people who come here follow our laws, and we reserve the right to criminally prosecute them if they do not.
Thank you, Congressman. Senator Warren, you say the provision making illegal border crossings a crime is totally unnecessary. Please respond.
So the problem is that right now, the criminalization statute is what gives Donald Trump the ability to take children away from their parents. It's what gives him the ability to lock up people at our borders. We need to continue to have border security, and we can do that. But what we can't do is not live our values. I've been down to the border. I have seen the mothers. I have seen the cages of babies. We must be a country that every day lives our values, and that means we cannot make it a crime when someone comes here.
Thank you, Senator. Just to clarify, would you decriminalize illegal border crossings?
The point is not about criminalization. That has given Donald Trump the tool to break families apart.
Thank you, Senator. Governor Hickenlooper, your response.
No, I agree that we need secure borders. There's no question about that. And the frustration with what's going on in Washington is they're kicking the ball back and forth. Secure the borders. Make sure whatever law we have doesn't allow children to be snatched from their parents and put in cages. How hard can that be? We've got, I don't know, on the 2 debate nights, we've got 170 years of Washington experience. Somehow it seems like that should be fairly fixable.
Well, and one way to fix it is to decriminalize. That's the whole point. What we're looking for here is a way to take away the tool that Donald Trump has used to break up families.
Thank you, Senator Warren. Senator Klobuchar, your response.
I would say there is the will to change this in Congress. What's missing is the right person in the White House. I believe that immigrants don't diminish America. They are America. And if you want to do something about border security, you first of all change the rules so people can seek asylum in those northern triangle countries. Then you pass the bill, and what the bill will do is it'll greatly reduce the deficit and give us some money for border security and for border help processing the cases. And most of all, it will allow for a path to citizenship, because this is not just about the border. Donald Trump wants to use these people as political pawns.
Thank you, Senator
When we have people all over our country that simply want to work and obey the law.
Senator Sanders, you want to provide undocumented immigrants free health care and free college. Why won't this drive even more people to come to the U.S. illegally?
This will have a strong border protections. But the main point I want to make is that what Trump is doing through his racism and his xenophobia is demonizing a group of people. And as president, I will end that demonization. If a mother and a child walk thousands of miles on a dangerous path, in my view, they are not criminals. They are people fleeing violence. And I think the main thing that we've got to do, among many others, Beto made this point, we've got to ask ourselves, why are people walking 2,000 miles to a strange country where they don't know the language? So what we will do the first week we are in the White House is bring the entire hemisphere together to talk about how we rebuild Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador so people do not have to flee their own countries.
Thank you, Senator.
Delaney, you know, he to John Delaney's credit, he actually sort of seemed to know which section of Bernie's bill there was a certain part in. He said like section 1200 he thinks or something, and he said, oh, it's bad math, and you know, hospitals all across our great nation are going to go bankrupt and stuff like this with Medicare for all. I don't know, whatever. And after that, it was immigration. I didn't really take a lot of notes on immigration, honestly. Yeah, I don't know. It was more fighting about Julian Castro's repeal 1325 thing. A lot of stuff about that. Yeah, I think. And then after that, they went to gun violence.
Mayor Buttigieg, other than offering words of comfort, what are you specifically going to do to stop this epidemic of gun violence?
Well, this epidemic of gun violence has hit my community, too, far too many times. It's the worst part of being mayor, getting the phone call, consoling grieving parents. And we have a mass shootings worth of killings every day in this country. What we're doing hasn't worked because we haven't had a system in Washington capable of delivering what the American people have told us they want. 90% of Republicans want universal background checks, not to mention the common sense solution laws that disarm domestic abusers and flag mental health risks, and an end to assault weapons, things like what I carried overseas in uniform that have no business in American neighborhoods in peacetime, let alone anywhere near a school. I was at an event a few days ago, and a 13-year-old asked me what we were going to do about school safety, and then began shaking, and then began crying. And we could talk about these policies, but we already know the policies. The only thing I could think of looking into the eyes of this child is, we're supposed to be dealing with this so you don't have to. High school is hard enough without having to worry about whether you're going to get shot. And when 90% of Americans want something to happen, and Washington can't deliver, we can't expect the same.
Thank you, Mayor. Governor Hickenlooper, your response, please.
I disagree with his
diagnosis. Please stand by, Senator.
Of the problem
Please stick to the rules.
Okay.
We'll get to you. We'll come to you in just a minute. Governor Hickenlooper, please respond.
Well, this is the fundamental nonsense of government. Another place where, despite our best efforts, we can't seem to make any progress. You know, when I went to the movie theater in Aurora in 2012 and saw that footage of what happened at that crime scene, I'll never forget it. And we decided, you know, that we were going to go out and take on the NRA. And we passed, as a purple state, we passed universal background checks. We limited magazine capacity. We did the basic work that, for whatever reason, doesn't seem to be able to get done in Washington.
Thank you, Governor. Senator Klobuchar, please respond.
This isn't just about a system, or it's not just about words. This is about the NRA. I sat across from the President of the United States after Parkland because I've been a leader on these issues and have the bill to close the boyfriend loophole. And I watched and wrote down when 9 times he said he wanted universal background checks. The next day he goes and he meets with the NRA and he folds. As your president, I will not fold. I will make sure that we get universal background checks passed, the assault weapon ban, that we do something about magazines, and that we understand when that little 6-year-old boy died, Stephen Romero, when his dad said he's only 6 years old, all I can say is he's 6 years old. We have to remember that.
This is the exact same conversation we've been having since I was in high school. I was a junior when the Columbine shooting happened. I was part of the first generation that saw routine school shootings. We have now produced the second school shooting generation in this country. We dare not allow there to be a third. Something is broken, if it is even possible, for the same debate around the same solutions that we all know are the right thing to do. They won't prevent every incident, they won't save every life, but we know what to do, and it has not happened.
Thank you, Mayor. Senator Klobuchar, please respond.
Yes. What is broken is a political system that allows the NRA and other large, big money to come in and make things not happen when the majority of people are for it. The people are with us now. After Parkland, those students just didn't march. They talked to their dads and their grandpas and the Hunters in their family, and they said there must be a better way. Then we elected people in the House of Representatives, and guess what? It changed, and they passed universal background checks. And now that bill is sitting on Mitch McConnell's doorstep because of the money and the power of the NRA. As president, I will take them on.
Thank you, Senator.
This is not about systems and words.
Thank you, Senator Klobuchar. Governor Bullock, how can Democrats trust you to be the leader on this fight for gun safety when you only changed your position to call for an assault weapons ban last summer?
You're like 40% of American households. I'm a gun owner. I hunt. Like far too many people in America, I've been personally impacted by gun violence. Had an 11-year-old nephew, Jeremy, shot and killed on a playground. We need to start looking at this as a public health issue, not a political issue. I agree with Senator Klobuchar. It is the NRA. And it's not just gun violence. It's when we talk about climate, when we talk about prescription drug costs. Washington, D.C. is captured by dark money, the Koch brothers and others. That's been the fight of my career, kicking the Koch brothers out of Montana, taking the first case after Citizens United up to the Supreme Court, making it so that elections are about people. That's the way we're actually going to make a change on this, Don, is by changing that system. And most of the things that folks are talking about on this stage, we're not going to address until we kick dark money and the post-Citizens United corporate spending out of these elections.
Congressman O'Rourke, what your response?
How else can we explain that we lose nearly 40,000 people in this country to gun violence, a number that no other country comes even close to, that we know what all the solutions are, and yet nothing has changed. It is because in this country, money buys influence, access, and increasingly outcomes. The Centers for Disease Control prevented from actually studying the issue in the first place. As president, we will make sure that we ban political action committee contributions to any member of Congress or any candidate for federal office. We will listen to people, not PACs, people, not corporations, people, not special interests.
Congressman, thank you very much. Senator Sanders, you said this in 2013, just months after the Sandy Hook massacre, and I quote here, "If you pass the strongest gun control legislation tomorrow, I don't think it will have a profound effect on the tragedies we have seen." Do you still agree with that statement today?
I think we have got to do, I think what I meant is what President Obama said, and that nobody up here is going to tell you that we have a magical solution to the crisis. Now, I come from one of the most rural states in America. I have a D- voting record from the NRA, and as president, I suspect it will be an F record. What I believe we have got to do is have the guts to finally take on the NRA. You asked me about my record. Back in 1988, coming from a state that had no gun control, I called for the ban of the sale and distribution of assault weapons. I lost that election. I will do everything I can, not only to take on the NRA, but to expand and create universal background checks, do away with the straw man provision, do away with the gun show loophole, and do away with the loopholes that now exist for gun manufacturers who are selling large amounts of weapons into communities that are going to gangs.
Let's see. Yeah, Buttigieg mentioned that he was a junior in high school when Columbine happened, and I was trying to remember how old we were when that happened. And
was that 99?
99, I believe.
Oh, yeah, it was 99 because it was just the 20th anniversary. Wow.
We might have been like sophomores or juniors or something. Maybe sophomores. I guess
Sounds
we're
right.
about a year younger than Buttigieg. Bob, what are we doing with our lives here, huh?
I know, right?
Why aren't we on that stage, right? Fucking it up.
Exactly.
I mentioned before, I think I felt the same way when Kim Jong-un became president, the supreme leader of North Korea. It's like, I'm barely holding on to a teaching job in South Korea. Like, I'm not the leader of my own country yet. What's wrong?
Well, you made the big mistake of not being born into a dynastic communist regime.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, maybe if we elect Bernie, my son won't have the same misfortune in America. Joking. He'll be born into a dynastic communist regime. Never mind. Okay. Right wing talking points, Bob.
Yeah.
Okay. So Buttigieg continues. We're in the second school shooting generation. Guns I was around in Afghanistan don't belong in the streets. Hickenlooper said something. Klobuchar said something. Bullock said something. Bernie said something I didn't really write down. Let's see. O'Rourke said ban political action committee contributions to the government, which is, smart and good. Williamson said, let's see, politicians who have taken money from PACs share responsibility. Seems to be true in some ways. Yeah. There was a question, is Bernie Sanders too extreme to beat Trump? Thanks, Jake Tapper.
In poll after poll, Democratic voters say that they want a candidate who can beat President Trump more than they want a candidate who agrees with them on major issues. Governor Hickenlooper, you ran a Facebook ad that warned, quote, socialism is not the answer. The ad also said, quote, don't let extremes give Trump 4 more years. Are you saying that Senator Sanders is too extreme to beat President Trump?
I'm saying the policies of this notion that you're going to take private insurance away from 180 million Americans who many of them don't want to give it. Many of them do want to get rid of it, but some don't. Many don't. Or you're going to, the Green New Deal, make sure that every American is guaranteed a government job if they want. That is a disaster at the ballot box. You might as well FedEx the election to Donald Trump. I think we've got to focus on where Donald Trump is failing. The word malpractice, and this is interesting. I always thought it was doctors or lawyers. It's, negligent, improper, illegal professional activity for doctors, lawyers, or public officials. Google it. Check it out. Donald Trump is malpractice personified. We've got to point that out. Why is it soybean farmers in Iowa need 10 good years to get back to where they were 2 years ago? Where's the small manufacturing jobs that are supposed to come back? Why are we lurching from one international crisis to another? All things that he promised American voters. We've got to focus on that and the economy and jobs and training so that we can promise a future for America that everybody wants to invest in.
Thank you, Governor. Senator Sanders, you are a proud Democratic socialist. How do you respond to Governor Hickenlooper?
Well, the truth is that every credible poll that I have seen has me beating Donald Trump, including the battleground states of Michigan, where I won the Democratic primary, Wisconsin, where I won the Democratic primary, and Pennsylvania. And the reason we are going to defeat Trump and beat him badly is that he is a fraud and a phony, and we're going to expose him for what he is. The American people want to have a minimum wage, which is a living wage, $15 an hour. I've helped lead that effort. The American people want to pay reasonable prices for prescription drugs, not the highest prices in the world. I've helped lead the effort for that as well.
Thank you, Senator. Governor Hickenlooper, I want to bring you back to respond.
So, again, I think if we're going to force Americans to make these radical changes, they're not going to go along. You throw your hands up, but you haven't I can do it. But you haven't implemented the plans. Us governors and mayors are the ones that we have to pick up all the pieces when suddenly the government's supposed to take over all these responsibilities and there's no preparation, the details aren't worked. You can't just spring a plan on the world and expect it to succeed.
Senator Sanders?
John, I was a mayor, and I helped transform my city. I have some practical experience. Second of all, interestingly enough, today is the anniversary of Medicare. 54 years ago, under Lyndon Johnson and the Democratic Congress, they started a new program. After 1 year, 19 million elderly people in it. Please don't tell me that in a 4-year period, we cannot go from 65 down to 55 to 45 to 35. This is not radical. This is what virtually every other country on earth does. We are.
Thank you, Senator. I want to bring in Congressman Ryan. You're from the state of Ohio. It's a state that voted twice for Obama and then went to President Trump in 2016. Please respond to Senator Sanders.
I would just say Hillary Clinton was winning in the polls, too. To take a snapshot in the polls today and apply it 16 months from now, whenever it is, I don't think is accurate. Now, in this discussion already tonight, we've talked about taking private health insurance away from union members in the industrial Midwest. We've talked about decriminalizing the border, and we've talked about giving free health care to undocumented workers when so many Americans are struggling to pay for their health care. I, quite frankly, don't think that that is an agenda that we can move forward on and win. We've got to talk about the working class issues, the people that take a shower after work who haven't had a raise in 30 years. If we focus on them, we'll win the election.
Thank you, Congressman. I want to bring Congressman O'Rourke. Your response, sir?
Bernie was talking about some of the battleground states in which we compete. There's a new battleground state, Texas, and it has 38 electoral college votes. And the way that we put it in play was by going to each one of those 254 counties. No matter how red or rural, we did not write you off. No matter how blue or urban, we did not take you for granted, and we didn't trim our sails either. We had the courage of our convictions, talking about universal health care, comprehensive immigration reform, and confronting the challenge of climate before it is too late. We brought everyone in, and now we have a chance to beat Donald Trump with Texas.
Thank you, Congressman. I want to bring Governor Bullock. We're talking about whether Democrats are moving too far to the left to win the White House. President Trump won your home state of Montana by 20 points. How do you respond, sir?
Yeah, as the only one of the field of 37 that actually won a Trump state, 25 to 30% of my voters voted for Donald Trump. I know that we do have to win back some of those places we lost and get those Trump voters back if we're ever going to win. But this isn't just a choice between the left and the center. It's not a choice just between sort of these wish list economics or thinking that we have to sacrifice our values to actually win. What folks want is a fair shot. The way I won, the way we can win is actually focusing on the economy and democracy aren't working for most people.
Thank you,
That's
Governor.
how I win. That's how we can take back the office.
Senator Warren, you make it a point to say that you're a capitalist. Is that your way of convincing voters that you might be a safer choice than Senator Sanders?
No, it is my way of talking about I know how to fight and I know how to win. I took on giant banks and I beat them. I took on Wall Street and CEOs and their lobbyists and their lawyers, and I beat them. I took on a popular Republican incumbent senator, and I beat him. I remember when people said Barack Obama couldn't get elected. Shoot, I remember when people said Donald Trump couldn't get elected. But here's where we are. I get it. There is a lot at stake and people are scared. But we can't choose a candidate we don't believe in just because we're too scared to do anything else. And we can't ask other people to vote for a candidate we don't believe in. Democrats win when we figure out what is right and we get out there and fight for it. I am not afraid. And for Democrats to win, you can't be afraid either.
Congressman Delaney, your response?
So I think Democrats win when we run on real solutions, not impossible promises. When we run on things that are workable, not fairy tale economics. Look at the story of Detroit, this amazing city that we're in. This city is turning around because the government and the private sector are working well together. That has to be our model going forward. We need to encourage collaboration between the government, the private sector, and the nonprofit sector, and focus on those kitchen table, pocketbook issues that matter to hardworking Americans, building infrastructure, creating jobs, improving their pay,
Thank you, Congressman.
creating universal health care, lowering drug prices.
Senator
We can do it.
You know, I don't understand why anybody goes to all the trouble of running for president of the United States just to talk about what we really can't do and shouldn't fight for. Problem in Washington is corruption. It is giant corporations that have taken our government and that are holding it by the throat. And we need to have the courage to fight back against that. And until we're ready to do that, it's just more of the same. Well, I'm ready to get in this fight. I'm ready to win this
Thank you,
fight.
Senator. Congressman Delaney.
When we created Social Security, we didn't say pensions were illegal, right? We can have big ideas to transform the lives. I mean, I started 2 companies and took them public before I was 40. I'm as big of a dreamer and an entrepreneur as anyone. But I also believe we need to have solutions that are workable. Can you imagine if we tried to start Social Security now but said private pensions are illegal? That's the equivalent of what Senator Sanders and Senator Warren are proposing with health care. That's not a big idea. That's an idea that's dead on arrival. That will never happen. So why don't we actually talk about things, big ideas that we can get done? The stakes are too high.
Senator Warren?
So look, he talks...
We'll come to you right after that. Senator Warren?
He talks about solutions that are workable. We have tried the solution of Medicare, Medicaid, and private insurance. And what have the private insurance companies done? They've sucked billions of dollars out of our healthcare system. They've made everybody fill out dozens and dozens of forms. Why? Not because they're trying to track your health care. They just want one more excuse to say no. Insurance companies do not have a God-given right to suck money out of our health care system.
Thank you,
and 2020 is our chance to stop.
Hickenlooper, yes.
What do you think they're going to say? No.
Yeah, thank you. This question is why I'm on the stage with you tonight. Yeah. And then Hickenlooper said yes, and then he said, "Oh, throw your hands up. I can do it too," or something when Bernie was going to react to him or something. It's just no. Yeah, these people have no respect. It's like absolutely no respect. So. Bernie just said, polls show me beating Trump. So actually the question's stupid. Ryan said Hillary was ahead of the president. So polls, Hillary was ahead of Trump. So the polls, polls don't really matter. He mentioned something about the people who take a shower after work, which was obviously another loaded line that he had preloaded before the debate that he wanted to use. Bullock talked about wish list economics. I want a Trump state. Nobody cares. Yeah. Warren came in after Delaney and she said, I don't understand why anybody goes to all the trouble of running for the president of the United States of America just to talk about what we can't do and shouldn't fight for. And that was obviously that was one of the 2 or 3 killer lines of the night, I think. Yeah.
That was great. Yeah.
And Delaney was always talking about he must have said it 5 times, real solutions, not impossible promises. That's his campaign slogan, I guess. Yeah, that was pretty much it on that question. Next one was climate crisis.
Congressman Delaney, I'll start with you. You say the Green New Deal is about as realistic as Trump saying Mexico is going to pay for the wall. But scientists say we need essentially to eliminate fossil fuel pollution by 2050 to avoid the most catastrophic consequences. Why isn't this sweeping plan to fight the climate crisis realistic?
Well, first of all, because it ties its progress to other things that are completely unrelated to climate, like universal health care, guaranteed government jobs, and universal basic income. So that only makes it harder to do. My plan, which gets us to net zero by 2050, which we absolutely have to do for our kids and our grandkids, will get us there. I put a price on carbon, take all the money, give it back to the American people in a dividend. That was introduced by me on a bipartisan basis. It's the only significant bipartisan climate bill in the Congress. I'm going to increase the Department of Energy research budget by 5-fold because we fundamentally have to innovate our way out of this problem. I'm going to create a market for something called direct air capture, which are machines that actually take carbon out of the atmosphere, because I don't think we'll get to net zero by 2050 unless we have those things. I'm going to increase investment in renewables, and I'm going to create something called the Climate Corps. That is a plan that's realistic. It's a bet on the U.S. private innovation economy and creates the incentives to get us to net zero by 2050 for our kids.
Thank you, Congressman. Senator Warren, you're a co-sponsor of the Green New Deal. Your response to Congressman Delaney.
So climate crisis is the existential crisis for our world. It puts every living thing on this planet at risk. I have a plan for a green industrial policy that takes advantage of the fact that we do what we do best, and that is innovate and create. So I've proposed putting $2 trillion in, so we do the research. We then say anyone in the world can use it, so long as you build it right here in America. That will produce about 1.2 million manufacturing jobs right here in Michigan, right here in Ohio, right here in the industrial Midwest. And the second thing we will do is we will then sell those products all around the world. Right now, for every $1 the United States spends trying to market around the world, China is spending $100.
Thank you, Senator Warren. Governor Hickenlooper, you take issue with the Green New Deal. Please respond.
Well, I think the guarantee for a public job for everyone who wants one is a classic part of the problem. It's a distraction. I share the urgency of everyone up here. We have to recognize, everyone's got good ideas. What we do in this country is no better than just a best practice, right? What we do here is a best practice and a template, but it's got to be done all over the world. So we've got to be building bridges right now with people like China, who were cheating on international agreements and stealing intellectual property. We need to work on that, but not with the tariff system. We need every country working together if we're going to really deal with climate change in a realistic way.
Thank you. Senator Warren, your response.
Look, I put a real policy on the table to create 1.2 million new jobs in green manufacturing. There's going to be a $23 trillion worldwide market for this. This could revitalize huge cities across this country, and no one wants to talk about it. What you want to do instead is find the Republican talking point of a made-up piece of some other part and say, oh, we don't really have to do anything. That's the problem we've got in Washington right now. It continues to be a Washington that works great for oil companies, just not for people worried about climate change.
Thank you, Senator Warren. Congressman Ryan, we are here in Michigan, where there are about 180,000 workers in auto manufacturing. Your state of Ohio has around 96,000 workers in that industry. Senator Sanders is co-sponsoring a bill that would eliminate new gas-powered car sales by 2040. Given the number of auto manufacturing workers in your state, how concerned are you about Senator Sanders' plan?
Well, if we get our act together, we won't have to worry about it. My plan is to create a chief manufacturing officer so we could actually start making things in the United States again that would pool the government, the Department of Energy, Department of Transportation, work with the private sector, work with investors, emerging tech companies to dominate the electric vehicle market. China dominates it now, 50 to 60%. I want us to dominate the battery market, make those here in the United States and cut the workers in on the deal. The charging stations, solar panels, same thing. China dominates 60% of the solar panel market. So this person will work in the White House, report directly to me, and we're going to start making things again. But you cannot get there on climate unless we talk about agriculture. We need to convert our industrial agriculture system over to a sustainable and regenerative agriculture system that actually sequesters carbon into the soil. And you can go ask Gabe Brown and Alan Williams, who actually make money off of regenerative agriculture. So we can move away from all the subsidies that we're giving the farmers. They haven't made a profit in 5 years, and we can start getting good food into our schools and into our communities. That's going to drive healthcare down. That's another part of the healthcare conversation that we didn't even have. How do we start talking about health instead of just disease care?
Thank you. Senator Sanders, your response?
I get a little bit tired of Democrats afraid of big ideas. Republicans are not afraid of big ideas. They could give $1 trillion in tax breaks to billionaires and profitable corporations. They could bail out the crooks on Wall Street. So please don't tell me that we cannot take on the fossil fuel industry and nothing happens unless we do that. Here is the bottom line. We've got to ask ourselves a simple question. What do you do with an industry that knowingly, for billions of dollars in short-term profits, is destroying this planet? I say that is criminal activity that cannot be allowed to continue.
Thank you, Senator Sanders. Congressman, your response.
Well, yeah, I would just say, I didn't say we couldn't get there till 2040, Bernie. You don't have to yell. I mean, all I'm saying is we have to invent our way out of this thing. And if we're waiting for 2040 for a ban to come in on gasoline vehicles, we're screwed. So we better get busy now. And that's why I'm saying get a chief manufacturing officer, align the environmental incentives with the financial incentives, and make sure that people can actually make money off of the new technologies that are moving forward. And then here's what I'll do as president, cut the worker in on the deal. Make sure these are union jobs, and I will double union membership to make sure that these new jobs pay what the old fossil fuel jobs pay.
Senator Sanders, your response.
Look, on this issue, my friends, there is no choice. We have got to be super aggressive if we love our children and if we want to leave them a planet that is healthy and is habitable. So I don't disagree with Tim. What that means is we got to, A, take on the fossil fuel industry. B, it means we have to transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy, and a hell of a lot of good union jobs as we do that. We got to transform our transportation system, and we have to lead the world.
Thank you, Senator
Sanders. This is not just an American issue.
Governor Bullock, your response.
You know, all of us agree that we have to address climate change. No one on this stage is talking about, though, the Republicans won't even acknowledge that climate change is real, Dana. And that's because of the corrupting influence of money. That has been the fight of my career. And second of which, as we transition to this clean energy economy, you got to recognize there are folks that have spent their whole life powering our country. And far too often, Democrats sound like they're part of the problem. We got to make sure to aid in those transitions as we get to a carbon neutral world, which I think we can do by 2040.
Thank you, Governor. Just to clarify, who is part of the problem?
I think Democrats, often when they're saying, oh, these fossil fuel industries, these workers, those coal mining workers, look, the world's changing. We got to make it change. But I think Democrats often sound like the people that, as Congressman Ryan would say, shower at the end of the day, that they're part of the problem. And far too many communities are being left behind as we make this transition. Look, we're having this discussion, and we can talk about competing plans.
Thank you, Governor. I want to give Senator Sanders a chance to respond.
Look, Steve, there ain't nobody in the Congress who's more strongly pro-worker than I am. So when I talk about taking on the fossil fuel industry, what I am also talking about is a just transition. All right? We can create, and what the Green New Deal is about, it's a bold idea. We can create millions of good-paying jobs. We can rebuild communities in rural America that have been devastated. So we are not anti-worker. No. We are going to make sure that those workers have a transition, new jobs,
Thank you,
healthcare, and
Senator.
education. And look,
Governor Bullock, your response?
And look, Bernie, I was a union side labor lawyer. I fought day after day. And I know, but we set this up as a false choice far too often. Are we going to actually address climate change? Fire seasons are 80 days longer in the West now. Or are we going to give people a better shot at a better life? You can do both, but let's actually have the scientists drive this. Let's not just talk about plans that are written for press releases that will go nowhere else if we can't even get a Republican to acknowledge that the climate's changing.
Congressman O'Rourke,
I've listened to scientists on this, and they're very clear. We don't have more than 10 years to get this right, and we won't meet that challenge with half steps or half measures or only half the country. We've got to bring everyone in. The people of Detroit and those that I listened to in Flint last week, they want the challenge. They want those jobs. They want to create the future for this country and the world. Those community college students that I met in Tucumcari, New Mexico, understand that wind and solar jobs are the fastest growing jobs in the country. And those farmers in Iowa say, pay me for the environmental services of planting cover crops and keeping more land in conservation easements. That's how we meet the challenge. We do it with everyone in this country. We bring everyone into the solution.
Delaney says the Green New Deal is unrealistic. Incentivize private companies to get net zero emissions by 2040 or something. Hickenlooper talked about best practices, which is one of these business English bullshit words or something, I think. Whenever I have to teach business English to somebody, which I frankly don't like to do, I don't have a background in business, and business people like to just reinvent the English language 50 different ways to say things in ways that could be said in normal English, but they want to make it special for themselves so that they feel more specialized or something. Can't stand it. So yeah, best practices. Let's see. Work with. I can't even read what I wrote here. Work with China. Work with China. He wants to work with China. Well, looks like that's out the window after today. So,
yeah.
Sanders said he's tired of Democrats who are afraid of big ideas. He said Republicans are not afraid of big ideas. They give tax breaks. They bail out Wall Street crooks. So we're taking on the fossil fuel industry. So we can take on the fossil fuel industry. Bullock said, don't blame fossil fuel workers, the coal miners, again, just, I think Bullock needs to be added to the list of Hickenlooper, Ryan, and what's his name? Delaney. Yeah. He was the fourth horseman of the bring down Bernie apocalypse. And Warren as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Klobuchar, maybe Williamson. If you feel any of this wonkiness is going to deal with the dark psychic force of the collected hatred that this president is bringing up in the country, then I'm afraid the Democrats are going to see some very dark days. Okay, so that was more dire warnings from Williamson. Mm-hmm. Thoughts about the climate crisis part?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think, let's see, what was Williamson saying? Oh, yeah, the wonky thing. That's another thing that makes me think of Trump. She doesn't like experts. It's like people that know anything is like the enemy. That's just another thing that kind of reminds me of Trump. So, I don't know. I was amused by her at first, and now I'm I just hope she doesn't get any further, honestly.
Yeah. Well, I think she does have a point that, people get bogged down in the numbers, and they say a lot of fancy numbers, and people think it sounds impressive, and so they do. I don't know. One thing, at one point, Bernie said something, and I just wrote down numbers, right? Because that's basically what he was saying. We got to, 30% of people, the top 1%, the 60%, $40 billion. It was just like a deluge of numbers that nobody else could possibly comprehend. Even as you're listening, yes, Bernie, I know these numbers, and I know they're real numbers, and I know they mean something, but when you're spouting them out like a machine gun like this, I can't even process what they're supposed to mean in the moment, right? It's so Williams. I give Williamson a point on the wonkiness in that anybody, Ryan can get up there and say some numbers and it'll sound impressive to people who, so I don't, but yeah, I do think like the kind of the anti-intellectualism thing is an issue, perhaps on both sides. So
yeah.
They came to racism, and O'Rourke had an interesting quote. Interesting, especially because this was, less than 10 days ago, he made this quote right before his own town gets a massive shooting that, kills a lot of people, kills 22 people, injures 24, 50 people hit by bullets, I guess. He said, and that's what we've learned in El Paso, Texas, my hometown, one of the safest cities in the United States of America. Not despite, but because it's a city of immigrants and asylum seekers and refugees. Okay, well, obviously in Trump's America, those three things do not make your city a safer place. Not because those people are inherently dangerous, but because Donald Trump has inspired, right-wing maniacs to take racial politics and border politics into their own hands in this country. And I've seen some reporting in the past 2 hours that the third shooter of the past several days, the one in Ohio, in Dayton, Ohio.
Wait, who was the second?
Well, the second one was El Paso. The third one I'm talking about is the one we've forgotten about already, which was it Gilroy, California?
Oh, the
Garlic Festival.
Right,
that was just like, was that 2 days ago, 3 days ago?
Yeah, I actually, when people were talking about Gilroy, I was like, Gilroy, that sounds familiar. Why do I remember that? Yeah, I couldn't even remember it a couple days later. It's insane. But anyway, go ahead. But the Ohio
that's
thing.
the clip of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So people are saying in the past couple hours that the guy in Ohio may have been a left-wing person. He posted some left-wing stuff and some pro-Antifa stuff and stuff like this on his Twitter page or something. So he may not have been a racial shooter like the other one.
Yeah.
But the best case argument you can make then is, and I'm sure the Republicans are going to latch onto this and they're going to talk this one to death and everything. But the best thing you can say is that 1 out of 3 of the last mass shooters in America were liberal and not directly inspired by Donald Trump and race. And even in that case, Democrats with gun control, issues or whatever that they support would take the guns away from both of these people, all 3 of these people, right? Or, may or may not take the guns away from anybody, but they're going to, if a dam bursts, you can't rebuild the dam while the water is still flowing. You got to slow down the tide of the water. And so they're talking about, banning sales of these guns and stuff like that. And that's going to have a downstream effect, which is how the thing is probably going to have to be managed. Nobody's talking about going into everybody's house tomorrow and taking their guns. So, but the point is number one, based on the stuff this guy was doing and writing in high school, it doesn't sound like he should have ever had a gun. He had kill lists and rape lists and stuff, and he was kicked out of school for a year, but then they let him back in. Now here we are. So, and he killed his own sister. He shot her boyfriend or something too before he went and shot up the place that he shot up. And he was killed within 30 seconds by the police. I mean, that's the thing, that's so crazy about this one is, I think when you think you're going to do a shooting and stuff, you imagine 20 minutes, 30 minutes of carnage, a couple hours of a police standoff or something. You don't imagine that within 30 seconds of you firing your first shot, you're going to be on the fucking ground getting hit by small arms fire, shotgun pellets,
right,
pistol rounds, everything, and you're going to be over. I don't think anybody predicted that. So
yeah. But it was still amazing how much he got off because he had one of those 100-round drum extensions on it, apparently. So, but yeah, I've found the Republican talking points just completely ridiculous, and they're always ridiculous. But in this time, they're not even trying. It feels like they're like, oh, but mental health, video games. Oh, but the guy in Ohio supported Elizabeth Warren. Should we blame her? Huh? So just like you're blaming Trump, it's like, look. Let's go through the list, okay? it's not because of what Elizabeth Warren said. She never said anything about people being invading hordes. And the guy in Texas drove across the state of Texas to go to this one Walmart on purpose because he wanted to kill Mexican people. Like it was a racially motivated killing. Like it's being investigated as a hate crime, as it should be. And then the thing about mental health is, okay, so should mentally ill people have guns? And aren't you the people that are trying to take away health care from people, which would cover mental health? Like, it's just, they're not even trying with these arguments. Like, it's so facile.
The Republican Party is intellectually bankrupt, and it's all a stalling tactic. Because, like I said, we forgot about the Gilroy, California shooting already because of these new shootings. You just need to throw up a smokescreen for a couple of days until Donald Trump says something racist, or China destroys the American economy, or, we go into a global tailspin, and then everybody forgets that you said that video games were to blame for this shooting, which is an obviously indefensible position. It's a joke of a position, but they're not even trying. It's a smokescreen. It's intellectually bankrupt. They don't have ideas. This is just all they can do. So, yeah. So that was part of the guns thing, the racism thing.
Congressman O'Rourke, President Trump is pursuing a re-election strategy based in part on racial division. How do you convince primary voters that you'd be the best nominee to take on President Trump and heal the racial divide in America?
We'll call his racism out for what it is and also talk about its consequences. It doesn't just offend our sensibilities to hear him say, "Send her back," about a member of Congress because she's a woman of color, because she's a Muslim American. It doesn't just offend our sensibilities when he calls Mexican immigrants rapists and criminals, or seeks to ban all Muslims from the shores of a country that is comprised of people from the world over, from every tradition of faith. It is also changing this country. Hate crimes are on the rise, every single one of the last 3 years. On the day that he signed his executive order attempting to ban Muslim travel, the mosque in Victoria, Texas, was burned to the ground. So we must not only stand up against Donald Trump and defeat him in this next election, but we must also ensure that we don't just tolerate or respect our differences, but we embrace them. That's what we've learned in El Paso, Texas, my hometown, one of the safest cities in the United States of America, not despite, but because it's a city of immigrants and asylum seekers and refugees. We will show that our diversity is our strength in my administration.
Congressman O'Rourke, thank you very much. Governor Hickenlooper, why are you the best nominee to heal the racial divide in America? Please respond.
Well, the core value behind this entire country's history is working towards a more perfect union, that all people are created equal, and we've fallen far away from that. I think the job is incumbent on any one of us to make the convincing case that we can deliver an urban agenda that represents progress in schools. In Colorado, when I was mayor, we got to universal pre-K for every kid in the urban city. We did major police reform 10 years before Ferguson. Why is it now that 5 years after Ferguson we still don't have anything? How do we get affordable housing? We created a scholarship fund for every kid. You got to deliver a vision like that for the whole country.
Thank you, Governor. Senator Warren, I'm coming to you now. Last week, the FBI Director Christopher Wray said that the majority of domestic terrorism cases this year have been motivated by white supremacy. In fact, the alleged shooter in this weekend's attack in Gilroy, California, referenced a well-known white supremacist book on social media. How are you going to combat the rise of white supremacy?
We need to call out white supremacy for what it is, domestic terrorism, and it poses a threat to the United States of America. We live in a country now where the president is advancing environmental racism, economic racism, criminal justice racism, healthcare racism. The way we do better is to fight back and show something better. So I have a plan, for example, on education that says we have to build a better education system for all our kids, but we've got to acknowledge what's happened on race. So my plan has universal tuition-free college for all of our kids, but also increases the Pell Grants and levels the playing field by putting $50 billion into historically black colleges and universities. It cancels student loan debt for 95% of the kids with student loan debt and helps close the black-white wealth gap in America.
Thank you, Senator, very much. Mayor Buttigieg, you have been criticized for your handling of racial issues in your home city of South Bend, from diversity in the police force to housing policy. Given your record, how can you convince African Americans that you should be the Democratic nominee?
As an urban mayor serving a diverse community, the racial divide lives within me. I'm not saying that I became mayor and racism or poverty ended on my watch. But in our city, we have come together repeatedly to tackle challenges like the fact that far too many people were not getting the help they needed in their housing, and so we directed it to a historically underinvested African-American neighborhood. Right now, in the wake of a police-involved shooting, our community is moving from hurting to healing by making sure that the community can participate in things like revising the use of force policy and making sure there are community voices on the Board of Safety that handles police matters. I've proposed a Douglas plan to tackle this issue nationally because mayors have hit the limits of what you can do unless there is national action. Systemic racism has touched every part of American life, from housing to health to home ownership. If you walk into an emergency room and you are black, your reports of pain will be taken less seriously. If you apply for a job and you are black, you are less likely to be called just because of the name on the resume. It's why I've proposed that we do everything from investing in historically redlined neighborhoods to build black wealth in home ownership.
Thank you, Mayor.
To supporting entrepreneurship for black
Thank you very much.
Hickenlooper said something. Warren said something. Klobuchar said something. Buttigieg said something. Buttigieg said the racial divide lives within me as an urban mayor. Williamson said there needs to be a $500 billion payment of a debt that is owed, which is an interesting way and probably somewhat a proper way to talk about reparations, although
many of your opponents support a commission to study the issue of reparations for slavery. But you are calling for up to $500 billion in financial assistance. What makes you qualified to determine how much is owed in reparations?
Well, first of all, it's not $500 billion in financial assistance. It's $500 billion, $200 to $500 billion, payment of a debt that is owed. That is what reparations is. We need some deep truth-telling when it comes. We don't need another commission to look at evidence. I appreciate what Congressman O'Rourke has said. It is time for us to simply realize that this country will not heal. All that a country is a collection of people. People heal when there's some deep truth-telling. We need to recognize that when it comes to the economic gap between blacks and whites in America, it does come from a great injustice that has never been dealt with. That great injustice has had to do with the fact that there was 250 years of slavery, followed by another 100 years of domestic terrorism. What makes me qualified to say $200 to $500 billion? I'll tell you what makes me qualified. If you did the math of the 40 acres and a mule, given that there was 4 to 5 million slaves at the end of the Civil War, there were 4 to 5, and they were all promised 40 acres and a mule for every family of 4. If you did the math today, it would be trillions of dollars. And I believe that anything less than $100 billion is an insult, and I believe that $200 to $500 billion is politically feasible today because so many Americans realize there is an injustice that continues to form a toxicity underneath the surface, an emotional turbulence that only reparations.
Thank you very much. Senator Sanders, you don't think cash payments are the best way to address this issue, but according to a new Gallup poll, 73% of African Americans are in favor of cash payments to black Americans who are descendants of slaves. How do you respond to them?
Well, I respond to that by saying that I am supportive of Jim Clyburn's legislation, which is called 10-20-30. And what that understands is that as a result of slavery and segregation and the institutional racism we see now in healthcare, in education, in financial services, we are going to have to focus big time on rebuilding distressed communities in America, including African-American communities. In terms of education, I also have a plan. It's called the Thurgood Marshall Plan, and it would focus on ending the growth of segregated schools in America. It would triple funding for Title I schools. It would make sure that teachers in this country earned at least $60,000 a year.
Senator Sanders, thank you very much.
again, we talked about reparations last time. Reparations may very well be owed. I think it's really hard to figure out who is owed them and who should pay them, but and how to justify that and how to make that a winning issue and how to get anything else done when that's something you're trying to get done. I think it's a red herring of an issue. So I don't know. I don't know. It's, yeah. Sanders says something about teachers should earn $60,000 a year starting salary, which I think is great. Obviously, although I'm not a public school teacher in America, so I wouldn't get it, but whatever. Delaney says raise capital gains tax, raise taxes. Okay. And that kind of brought us to the economy. I don't know how he got there off of the race issue, but.
Let's turn now to the economy. Congressman Ryan, President Trump's tariffs have boosted the U.S. steel industry, but hurt auto manufacturers like those here in Michigan, which could drive up the cost of cars. As president, would you continue President Trump's steel tariffs?
Look, I think President Trump was on to something when he talked about China. China has been abusing the economic system for a long time. They steal intellectual property. They subsidize goods coming into this country. They've displaced steel workers, auto workers across the board, eroded our manufacturing, and we basically transferred our wealth of our middle class either up to the top 1% or to China for them to build their military. So I think we need some targeted response against China. But you know how you beat China? You outcompete them. And that's why I put a chief manufacturing officer in place to make sure that we rebuild the manufacturing base. We've got to fill these factories that in Detroit and Youngstown that used to make cars and steel, we've got to fill them with workers who are making electric vehicles, batteries, charging stations, make sure they're making solar panels. As I said earlier, China dominates 60% of the solar panel market. They dominate 50 to 60% of the electric vehicle market. We're going to make 10 million electric vehicles somewhere in the world in the next 10 years. I want them made in the United States. That's why I have a chief manufacturing officer that will sit in the White House and help drive this agenda.
Thank you. Just as a point of clarification, as president, would you continue President Trump's steel tariffs? Yes or no?
Well, I would have to reevaluate. I think some of them are effective, but he's bungled the whole thing, obviously. See, here's the problem with President Trump. He has a tactical move, one of many. He has a tactical move. What's the grand strategy for the United States? China has a 100-year plan, a 50-year plan, a 30-year plan, a 20-year plan. We live in a 24-hour news cycle. That spells disaster for our economy and disaster for our global politics.
Thank you, Congressman. Congressman Delaney, your response.
So listen, this is what I don't understand. President Trump wants to build physical walls and beats up on immigrants. Most of the folks running for president want to build economic walls to free trade and beat up on President Obama. I'm the only one running for president who actually supports the Trans-Pacific Partnership. President Obama was right about that. We should be getting back in that. Senator Warren just issued a trade plan that would prevent the United States from trading with its allies. We can't isolate ourselves from the world. We have to engage with fair, rules-based trade.
Thank you, Congressman Delaney. Senator Warren, please respond.
You know, for decades, we have had a trade policy that has been written by giant multinational corporations to help giant multinational corporations. They have no loyalty to America. They have no patriotism. If they can save a nickel by moving a job to Mexico, they'll do it in a heartbeat. If they can continue a polluting plant by moving it to Vietnam, they'll do it in a heartbeat. I have put out a new comprehensive plan that says we're not going to do it that way. We're going to negotiate our deals with unions at the table, with small businesses at the table, with small farmers at the table, with environmentalists at the table, with human rights activists at the table. And then we're going to use the fact that everybody in the world wants to get to America's markets. They want to sell to you.
Congressman Delaney.
Sorry.
Everyone wants to get to America's markets. No. So the question is,
Senator, thank you. Please abide by the rules. Congressman Delaney, it's your turn. Thank you, Senator. Congressman Delaney.
So that was the Trans-Pacific Partnership. I think President Obama was right. He did include environmental standards. He did include labor standards. We would be in an entirely different position with China if we had entered the Trans-Pacific Partnership. We can't isolate ourselves from the world. We can't isolate ourselves from Asia. Senator Warren's plan basically that she put out, we would not be able to trade with the United Kingdom. We would not be able to trade with the EU. It is so extreme that it'll isolate the American economy from the rest of the world.
Senator?
Senator
Warren.
Senator Warren. Notice what I think he said.
Senator Sanders, please let Senator Warren respond.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What the congressman is describing as extreme is having deals that are negotiated by American workers for American workers. American workers want those jobs, and we can build the trade deals that do it. People want access to our markets all around the world. Then the answer is, let's make them raise their standards, make them pay their workers more, let their workers unionize, raise their environmental standards before they come to us and say they want to be able to sell their products. Right now, the whole game is working for the big multinationals. It's just not working for the people here in the United States,
Senator,
and we can
thank you very
change
much.
that.
Congressman O'Rourke, your response.
You know, the question was about tariffs, and they're a huge mistake. They constitute the largest tax increase on the American consumer, hitting the middle class and the working poor especially hard. And farmers in Iowa and across the country are bearing the brunt of the consequences. When have we ever gone to war, including a trade war, without allies and friends and partners? As president, we will hold China accountable, but we will bring our allies and friends like the European Union to bear, and we'll also negotiate trade deals that favor farmers and American workers and protect human rights and the environment and labor, not just here in the United States, but in those countries.
Thank you very much. Senator Sanders, please respond to Congressman O'Rourke.
Yeah, okay. You're looking, I believe, at the only member of Congress who not only voted against these disastrous trade agreements, NAFTA, PNTR with China, which cost us over 4 million jobs, but also helped lead the effort against these agreements. Now, Elizabeth is absolutely right. If anybody here thinks that corporate America gives one damn about the average American worker, you're mistaken. If they can save 5 cents by going to China, Mexico, or Vietnam, or any place else, that's exactly what they would do. As president, let me tell you what I will do. These guys line up at the federal trough. They want military contracts. They want all kinds of contracts. Well, under my administration, you ain't going to get those contracts if you throw American workers out on the street.
Thank you very much. Governor Hickenlooper, your response.
So I think, again, I think Congressman Delaney has got a point here, and there is a way of looking at trade that is therapeutic. The bottom line is, you talk to any economist, there is not a single example in history where a trade war had a winner. Trade wars are for losers. And the bottom line is we've got to recognize, let's negotiate a better trade deal, but you're not going to win against China in a trade war when they've got 25% of our total debt. And step back and look at, here's Trump gives a giant tax cut, and at the same time, so we're paying in tariffs about $800 to $1,200 per household. And then we give this incredible tax cut to the rich. Essentially, what's happening is now he's transferred that tax obligation onto the middle class. That's what's outrageous, but tariffs are not the solution.
Governor, thank you. Senator Warren.
Anyone who thinks that these trade deals are mostly about tariffs just doesn't understand what's going on. Look at the new NAFTA 2.0. What's the central feature? It's to help pharmaceutical companies get longer periods of exclusivity, so they can charge Canadians, Americans, and Mexicans more money and make more profits. That's what trade deals have become. They have become a way for giant multinationals to change the regulatory environment so they can suck more profits out for themselves and to leave the American people behind. We have to have the courage to fight back against that
Senator,
corruption.
thank you. Governor Bullock, your response?
You know, Farmer in Rippey said to me, every time that Trump tweets, we lose hundreds of thousands of dollars. If Montana had to eat all the wheat that we produce, every Montanan would have to eat 40 loaves of bread a day. But by the same token, what we have is, I actually agree with Senator Warren on this in part. Corporations can move capital easy. Workers can't move. So going forward, we need to make sure that our trade deals actually are protecting, thinking about the workers. They can't be the stepchild, but the way to do it with this blunt instrument of tariffs that the president's doing, that's not how we get a fair deal for farmers anywhere or the manufacturers here in Detroit.
Governor, thank you very much. Mayor, stand by, please. Stand by, please. Please abide by the rules. Mayor Buttigieg, on Thursday of this week, a GM plant in Michigan will stop production, the latest auto plant to cease operations in the industrial Midwest. This comes as part of the company's modernization plans, which will eventually result in 6,000 hourly workers losing their jobs or being reassigned to other plants. What is your plan for retraining workers whose jobs are at risk?
This happened in my community 20 years before I was born, and when I was growing up, we were still picking up the pieces. Empty factories, empty houses, poverty. I know exactly what happens to a community when these closures take place, and there will be more. It's why we actually need to put the interests of workers first. Of course we need to do retraining. We're doing it now in South Bend. We should continue to do it, but this is so much bigger than a trade fight. This is about a moment when the economy is changing before our eyes. There are people in the gig economy who go through more jobs in a week than my parents went through in their lifetime. It's why I've proposed that we allow gig workers to unionize, because a gig is a job and a worker is a worker.
Thank you, Mayor.
We have to respond to all of these changes and, in addition to confronting tech, in addition to supporting workers by doubling unionization, as I propose to do, some of this is low tech too. Like the minimum wage is just too low. And so-called conservative Christian senators right now in the Senate are blocking a bill to raise the minimum wage when Scripture says that whoever oppresses the poor taunts their maker.
That brought us to the economy, which was another topic also. Let's see. Ryan said Trump was on to something about China. He said China has a 100-year plan, a 50-year plan, a 30-year plan, a 20-year plan. We live in a 24-hour news cycle, which is okay. Yeah, good line. But the 5-year plans of Mao's 5-year plans, that's a communist idea. I think, be careful, Ryan. You're getting pretty left there. So, but yeah, I think that's, yeah, they have a plan, and we, want to maintain short-term profits sometimes. Mm-hmm. So, and they have a government that can control the industry. We have industry that controls government, and industry wants short-term profits. In China, they're going to say, yeah, we're going to devalue the currency and to, offset these things that Trump is doing or whatever. And it's, I don't know. I'm not an economics guy, but it's like they have a government that can control the industry and says what the policy is going to be. And they're going to say, you're going to suffer in the short term here for some time, but in the long term, this is going to be good for the country. And the industry says, yes, boss, mm-hmm. basically, right? I mean, it's like, that's a dynamic in the fight with China.
Mm-hmm.
Delaney said, I support the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Let's see. He says Trump beats up on immigrants, but he says a lot of people here tonight are about to beat up on Obama for the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Warren said $50 million in first dollar, $50 million you get for free, but on your $50 million in first dollar, you gotta pitch in 2 cents on every dollar after that. I don't know. O'Rourke, Sanders, Hickenlooper, and Bullock said stuff I didn't really write down.
Mm-hmm.
Delaney said raise capital gains tax, raise taxes, even though he's rich.
I mean, I think that it was kind of unfortunate that we had all this thing with the mass shooting and the economy right before this debate, because it would have been interesting to hear their reactions to all that's been happening in the last few days here. But I guess that's
right after the debate.
Well, like the market's tanking and these mass shootings and stuff. Like, I don't know.
No, I'm saying you said right before the debate, but actually it happened right after the debate, right?
Yeah, that's what I meant. So
yeah, it is. Well, we'll see about the next debate. We'll see where we are a month from now. For sure. Yeah, after the economy, they came to student debt.
I'm going to turn to the issue of student debt now, Mayor Buttigieg. You've talked about how you and your husband are paying down 6 figures of student loan debt. Under Senator Sanders' proposal to cancel all student loan debt, yours would immediately be wiped away. Why wouldn't you support that?
That'd be great for us. And then the next day, there would be a student loan program, and people would be out taking student loans wondering why they weren't lucky enough in timing to get theirs wiped away completely too. We can have debt-free college for low and middle-income students by expanding Pell Grants and compelling states to pick up more of the burden. And on the back end, for those of us who do have a lot of debt, we can make it more affordable, and we can expand a public service loan forgiveness program, which is an excellent program that is almost impossible to actually get access to right now. We can take these steps and have an approach that is actually fair. If we want to start wiping away student debt, here's where I would start. I would start with the for-profit colleges that took advantage of people, especially veterans, by the way. The moment I redeployed, my Facebook ad feed started filling with ads from these for-profit colleges. Under President Obama, they were held accountable for whether they delivered results. President Trump, under a Secretary of Education, who regrettably is from this state, did away with those rules. There's no accountability. On my watch, those colleges that turned the Department of Education into a predatory lender, that's where we would begin when it came to getting rid of loans.
Thank you, Mayor Buttigieg. Senator Sanders, you want to forgive all student loan debt? Your response.
Matter of fact, I do. But before I get into that, the major issue that we don't talk about in Congress, you don't talk about in the media, is the massive level of income and wealth inequality in America. You got 3 people who own more wealth than the bottom 90%. You got top 1% that owns more wealth than the bottom 92%. 49% of all new income goes to the top 1%. Companies like Amazon and billionaires out there do not pay 1 nickel in federal income tax. And we've got 500,000 people sleeping out on the street. What we need is a political revolution that tells these billionaires and corporate America that they are Americans, they'll participate in our society, but they have got to start paying their fair share of taxes, period.
Thank you, Senator Sanders. Ms. Williamson,
I'd like to respond.
You are proposing to make college free for all qualified students. Should the government pay for children from wealthier families to go to college?
I think that all domestic and international policy should be based on the idea that anything we do to help people thrive is a stimulation to our economy. That's how you stimulate your economy. So if a few people take advantage, but there are 4 or 5 people who are going to take the money that they then have in the bank. When you look at this $1.5 trillion college debt, this is why I agree with Bernie, or I would be, okay, why don't we swap it? We had a $2 trillion tax cut where 83 cents of every dollar goes to the very, very richest among us. That does not stimulate the economy. If we get rid of this college debt, think of all the young people who will have the discretionary spending. They'll be able to start their business. The best thing you could do to stimulate the U.S. economy is to get rid of this debt. This is not just about a plan to do it, it's about a philosophy of governing. And I've heard some people here tonight, I almost wonder why you're Democrats. You seem to think there's something wrong about using the instruments of government to help people. That is what government should do. All policies should help people thrive. That is how we will have peace, and that is how we will have prosperity.
Thank you, Ms. Williamson. Congressman O'Rourke, you don't support free 4-year college. Your response to Ms. Williamson?
I support free 2-year college. Earn that associate's degree, realize your full potential, debt-free 4-year college. But unlike some of the other candidates on the stage, that's not just for tuition. That is room and books and board, the full cost of being able to better yourself so that you can better this country. And then for that school teacher who in many places like Texas is working a 2nd or a 3rd job, full forgiveness for her outstanding student loan debt, forgiveness for that person willing to work at the VA and serve our former service members. And we do not do that at the expense of unions. We elevate them as well and make it easier to join an apprenticeship, to learn a skill or a trade that you can command for the rest of your life.
Thank you. Thank you, Congressman. Senator Klobuchar, your response.
I want to make it easier for kids to go to college, and I think we do it by focusing our resources on the people that need it most. And my problem with some of these plans is they literally would pay for wealthy kids, for Wall Street kids to go to college. There's no difference. It says everyone is free. I don't think that makes sense. And I'm very concerned if we do things like that, the debt we're going to pass on to the next generation and the next generation. So what I would do about student loan debt is that I would allow people to refinance it at a better rate, and I would make sure that we improve those student loan repayment programs for our teachers and expand them so that you literally over 5-10 years can get it paid for if you go into occupations where we don't have enough workers.
Buttigieg talked about a public service loan forgiveness program. I'm not really about it, you know. Like, I don't know. I think Harris has a similar thing. Like, I think, and this is something we can talk about on the next debate thing too. She said, like, if you have student debt and you start a business in a low income community and you run it for 3 or 5 years or something, then we'll forgive your debts.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. like, okay, I'm in debt. I get out of college, I'm in debt. And now I'm going to have the capital to start my own business. And and if I don't live in a low income community as designated by that, like that, I'm going to move to a low income community, start my own business, start up a business, keep the business afloat one way or the other for 3 years. And no, that's a non-starter, right? That's not a serious idea.
Yeah,
So,
it just doesn't make any sense. Like, it's one of those things where, like, you have to earn the right to this. It's just like, no, just forgive it for everybody. Like, it's like, stop making people jump through hoops. And we've already had this thing where people jump through hoops and they don't even honor it. What was the thing with Betsy DeVos, like, where it was like, if you were in like civil service or something and made 10 years of payments, it'd all be forgiven, but only like 30 people qualified after like the thousands of people tried it, and it was so ridiculous. It's like a way to say that you're doing something without doing something, you know?
yeah. It's like, you forgive the student loan debts, people will start businesses. People are not going to start a business without you with the student loan debt over their head, right? It's like,
Yeah, no kidding.
It's just it's ass backwards. So
Yeah.
Let's see. Williamson had a good line. I don't know why you're Democrats, she said. You seem to think there's something wrong with using the instruments of government to help people, which is a pretty good line, I thought. I mean, like, yeah.
But I mean, I think, yeah, as annoyed as I was with the contingent we were talking about, the take down Bernie and Warren contingent, I feel like that's good to exercise those demons now, because they're going to come back later when we actually have to like face the other side. You know what I mean? So it's like, we may as well have this fight now with you people that aren't going to be president. Like,
yeah, maybe so. I don't know. I think it's a good point. I don't know, a couple of podcasts ago, I think we talked about something I'd read or something I'd heard said that, like, it was an article, I think it was in the Atlantic or something, that was very critical of the what can we say, the kind of the crowdfunding economy or whatever, because they say that basically the crowdfunding economy is covering things that government funding and sponsorship used to cover, right? But because government's not doing its job and not doing what it's supposed to do these days, that means that people are turning to, like, if I think you have a worthy cause, or I think that your healthcare is worth this, or your small business idea is worth this, then, you know, we're going to have private people give you a loan, right? And then you're going to be accountable to them. It's like, and it is an indication that government's not doing something maybe that it should be doing or has done in the past. And so I thought, you know, Williamson's line kind of reminded me of that.
For sure.
O'Rourke talks about free 2-year college, not 4-year college. He's like, you know, go out there and get your associate's degree and be all that you can be the best that you can be, or something. It's like, oh, come on, just go all the way. Don't do these half measures. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what everybody from our school that got associate's degrees is doing right now. I really don't know. You know, I can tell you what a lot of people who got 4 years or more are doing, but yeah.
No, two of them are doing this podcast, right, Chaz?
Yeah.
Look at us.
We made it.
That's right. We sailed right past that associate's degree.
Yeah. I mean, and, you know, there's an argument to be made. You go for 2 years for your associates, and then you transfer to a 4-year college if the credits transfer and stuff. But I don't know. You know, I don't know why you're in the Democratic debate if you're pushing these kinds of half measures. I mean,
that line did stop me cold. I was kind of like, whoa, dream big there, Beto.
Yeah, not born for this, man. Not born for this. So, yeah, that was kind of a clunker idea, I thought. Yeah. Then they came to military intervention.
I want to turn to foreign policy now. Senator Sanders, President Trump has argued that the United States cannot continue to be the, quote, policeman of the world. You said the exact same thing on a debate stage in 2016. If voters are hearing the same message from you and President Trump on the issue of military intervention, how should they expect that you will be any different from him?
Trump is a pathological liar. I tell the truth. We have been in Afghanistan, I think, 18 years, in Iraq, 16 or 17 years. We have spent $5 trillion on the war on terror, and there are probably more terrorists out there now than before it began. We're going to spend, the Congress passed, and I will not vote for, a $715 billion military budget, more than the 10 next countries combined. What we need is a foreign policy that focuses on diplomacy, ending conflicts by people sitting at a table, not by killing each other. As President of the United States, I will go to the United Nations and not denigrate it, not attack the UN, but bring countries together in the Middle East and all over the world to come to terms with their differences and solve those problems peacefully. The United States cannot be the policeman of the world.
Thank you, Senator. Governor Hickenlooper, how do you respond to Senator Sanders' vision for America's role in the world?
Well, we share the recognition of the incredible cost. People don't realize that half the soldiers that fought in Iraq and Afghanistan were National Guard. And so I went and sent them off on their deployments, big, noisy hangars, but I also mourned with their families when they didn't come back. We are able now to, I call it constant engagement, but we should have an international diplomatic approach where we're talking to everybody. Because if we're going to deal with climate change and cybersecurity and nuclear proliferation, we've got to be talking to everybody. And tariff wars don't work. They're for losers.
Thank you, Governor. I want to go to Congressman Ryan, and I want to turn to the subject of North Korea, which just hours ago launched 2 short-range ballistic missiles for the second time in less than a week. Congressman, you said that you would not meet with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un unless you were at least close to a deal. Now, Senator Klobuchar says that she would, quote, always be willing to meet with leaders to discuss policies. Is that view wrong?
Yeah, I think so. I love Amy Klobuchar, but I think she's wrong on this one. I don't think presidents of the United States meet with dictators. We saw what just happened with President Trump. He goes to the demilitarized zone with the leader of North Korea, gives him a huge photo op, gives him global credibility because the most powerful person in the world is sitting there meeting with him, and weeks later he's lobbing more missiles. That doesn't make any sense. We've got to demilitarize our foreign policy. We've got to make sure that we are engaging these countries all the time. This is very difficult work. I've been in Congress 17 years. I've sat on the Defense Appropriations Committee. I sat on the Armed Services Committee. This is long, tedious work, much of it done outside of the eye of the TV camera. And as president, you've got to monitor that and be very disciplined every day. Don't go give a dictator a huge win. Sit down and do your job. And the same thing with what's happening in Central America. He's cutting the State Department budget. Nicaragua, Guatemala, El Salvador, where the migrants are coming from, go fix the problem at its source and use diplomacy to do it.
Senator Klobuchar, your response?
I think we agree. I just think you have to leave open the possibility of meeting with anyone at any place. What I don't like is how this president has handled it. You've heard of the Truman Doctrine, the Monroe Doctrine. He's done the go it alone doctrine with the rest of the world. He's taken us out of the climate change agreement, out of the Iran nuclear agreement, out of the Russian nuclear agreement, and I don't agree with that. And when he was just with Vladimir Putin at the G20, when he was asked about invading our democracy, he made a joke. Hundreds of thousands of Americans have lost their lives on the battlefield to protect our democracy and our right to vote. Four little girls in Birmingham, Alabama, lost their life in a church at the height of the Civil Rights Amendment. So I do believe you meet with people, but you better have an agenda, and you better put our interests of our country first, not the Russians.
Thank you, Senator Klobuchar. Mayor Buttigieg, you served in Afghanistan, where just yesterday 2 U.S. service members were killed. There are currently about 14,000 U.S. service members in Afghanistan. You've said, quote, one thing everybody can agree on is that we're getting out of Afghanistan. Will you withdraw all U.S. service members by the end of your first year in office?
We will withdraw. We have to.
In your first year?
Yes. Look, around the world, we will do whatever it takes to keep America safe. But I thought I was one of the last troops leaving Afghanistan when I thought I was turning out the lights years ago. Every time I see news about somebody being killed in Afghanistan, I think about what it was like to hear an explosion over there and wonder whether it was somebody that I served with, somebody that I knew, a friend, roommate, colleague. We're pretty close to the day when we will wake up to the news of a casualty in Afghanistan who was not born on 9/11. I was sent into that war by a congressional authorization as well as a president. And we need to talk not only about the need for a president committed to ending endless war, but the fact that Congress has been asleep at the switch. And on my watch, I will propose that any authorization for the use of military force have a 3-year sunset and have to be renewed. Because if men and women in the military have the courage to go serve, members of Congress ought to have to summon the courage to vote on whether they ought to be there.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to bring in Congressman O'Rourke. Congressman O'Rourke, returning to the question of whether you would withdraw all U.S. service members from Afghanistan during your first year in office as president. How do you respond, sir?
I would, in my first term in office, agree that there is nothing about perpetuating this war already in its 18th year that will make it any better. We've satisfied the reasons for our involvement in Afghanistan in the first place. And it's time to bring those service members back home from Afghanistan, but also from Iraq, also from Yemen and Somalia and Libya and Syria. There is no reason for us to be at war all over the world tonight. As president, I will end those wars, and we will not start new wars. We will not send more U.S. service members overseas to sacrifice their lives and to take the lives of others in our name. We can resolve these challenges peacefully and diplomatically.
Congressman. Governor Hickenlooper, you disagree. You've said that you're open to keeping some service members in Afghanistan beyond.
Look at it as a humanitarian issue, and with all due respect, you're looking at the condition of women. If we completely pull our troops out of there, you're going to see a humanitarian disaster that will startle and frighten every man, woman, and child in this country. And I don't think, we have troops in over 400 different locations around the world. Most of them are small, they're peacekeeping, they're not greatly at risk. We're going to have to be in Afghanistan. Look at the progress that's happened in that country. We're going to turn our backs and walk away from people that have risked their lives to help us and build a different future for Afghanistan and that part of the world?
Thank you, Governor. Senator Warren, you want to make it U.S. policy that the U.S. will never use a nuclear weapon unless another country uses one first. Now, President Obama reportedly considered that policy, but ultimately decided against it. Why should the U.S. tie its own hands with that policy?
Because it makes the world safer. The United States is not going to use nuclear weapons preemptively, and we need to say so to the entire world. It reduces the likelihood that someone miscalculates, someone misunderstands. Our first responsibility is to keep ourselves safe. And what's happening right now with Donald Trump, as they keep expanding the different ways that we have nuclear weapons, the different ways that they could be used, puts us all at risk. We talk about what's happening around the world. I have 3 older brothers who served in the military. I see that they would do anything. Our military is the best on earth, but we should not be asking our military to take on jobs that do not have a military solution. We need to use our diplomatic tools, our economic tools, and if we're going to send someone into war, we better have a plan for how we're going to get them out on the other end.
Thank you, Senator. Governor Bullock, your response to Senator Warren's proposal to the U.S. never use a nuclear weapon first?
I wouldn't want to take that off the table. I think America's strength, we have to be able to say that. Look, never, I hope, certainly in my term or anyone else, would we really even get close to pulling that trigger. But by the same token, America's strength, and look, this president's made America versus America alone. Our allies no longer trust us. Our adversaries are with us. But going from a position of strength, we should be negotiating down so there aren't nuclear weapons. But drawing those lines in sand at this point, I wouldn't do.
Thank you, Governor. Senator Warren, your response?
Look, we don't expand trust around the world by saying, we might be the first ones to use a nuclear weapon. That puts the entire world at risk and puts us at risk right in the middle of this. At a time when Donald Trump is pulling out of our nuclear negotiations, expanding the opportunities for nuclear proliferation around the world, has pulled us out of the deal in Iran, and Iran is now working on its nuclear weapon. The world gets closer and closer to nuclear warfare. We have to have an announced policy that is one the entire world can live with. We need to make that clear. We will respond if someone else does, but
Governor
not
Bullock,
first.
please respond.
Part I agree with. But by the same token, like, we need to get back to nuclear proliferation.
Why?
But when you have folks, proliferation, reducing them, but at the same time, when you actually have Korea, when you have others, I don't want to turn around and say, well, Detroit has to be gone before we would ever use that. When so many crazy folks are getting closer to having a nuclear weapon, I don't want them to think I could strike this country and I and we as the United States of America wouldn't do a thing. Part of the strength really is the ability to deter.
They said, Bernie, you know, Donald Trump says America doesn't need to be a world's police, just like you. So how are you different? He's like, well, Trump is a pathological liar. He says, I tell the truth. Okay. Hickenlooper talked about meeting anyone at any time, any place. Keep the troops in Afghanistan. Humanitarian disaster if we leave. Women's rights, things like that. He said we have troops in 400 places around the world. So, basically, why should Afghanistan be any different? Which is, I don't know. I'm not totally disagreeing with that. The mission's not accomplished in Afghanistan. I mean, you could make two arguments about that. The mission we set out to accomplish was accomplished, or the mission will never be accomplishable. So, it may be, it may be that if we can't do what we did for Germany, Japan, Korea, places like that, by keeping troops there, then maybe they don't need to be there. But I think, it is true that we have troops in a lot of places to stabilize places around the world. And some parts of the world are stable because of that. So, Ryan talked about no meeting with North Korea unless close to a deal. Buttigieg said withdraw Afghanistan within first year. Use of force authorization should have a 3-year sunset period so that, so that the Congress they can't avoid the responsibility. They have to, if they want to extend it, they have to vote to extend it every 3 years, which is probably smart. I don't know. If you have a Mitch McConnell Senate, though, or something like that, then maybe not. But, yeah. Beto O'Rourke said first term withdraw from Afghanistan. The question was first day or first year, I think. But he said first term, not first year. Warren said no nuclear first strike. For some reason, this was controversial, and I think one of the four horsemen of the take down the liberals even said, we're giving up our deterrence effect if we get rid of the nuclear first strike. It's like, no, deterrence effect, as I understand it, is that if you nuke us, we'll definitely nuke you back, right?
Mutually assured destruction, yeah.
Yeah, it's not that we might nuke you first. I don't think, maybe I don't fully understand military policy, but I don't think that's, maybe that's part of the deterrence, because we're saying if Russia does a ground invasion of California or something, or Alaska, then we'll nuke their Moscow or something. But I don't know. Things need to be going the other way on nuclear weapons. Of course, Donald Trump just let the nuclear deproliferation thing with Russia expire just yesterday or 2 days ago, I think. So we'll see how that goes. But Bullock says, don't take nuclear first strike off the table. We need to get back to nuclear proliferation. Deproliferation.
I noticed that too.
I don't know. We know what he meant, but it's a weird kind of Freudian slip or whatever to make.
Yeah.
There was a question about age.
As you know, to serve as president of the United States, all of you know this, you have to be at least 35 years old. So, Mayor Buttigieg, you just qualified. You're 37, the youngest candidate in this field. Standing next to you is the oldest candidate, Bernie Sanders, at age 77. Should voters take into consideration age when choosing a presidential candidate?
I don't care how old you are. I care about your vision. But I do think it matters that we have a new generation of leaders stepping up around the world. Leaders like I actually think it's good that the Prime Minister of New Zealand's gotten a lot of attention in Democratic debates. She's masterful. She is younger than I would be when I take office. This is the kind of trend America might be leading instead of following, but only if it's actually backed by the right vision. And we can have great presidents at any age. What I will say is we need the kind of vision that's going to win. We cannot have a vision that amounts to back to normal. The only reason we got this president is that normal didn't work. We have to be ready to take on this president. And by the way, something that hasn't been talked about as much tonight, take on his enablers in Congress. You know, when David Duke ran for Congress, or ran for governor, the Republican Party 20 years ago ran away from him. Today, they are supporting naked racism in the White House, or at best silent about it. And if you are watching this at home, and you are a Republican member of Congress, consider the fact that when the sun sets on your career, and they are writing your story, of all the good and bad things you did in your life, the thing you will be remembered for is whether in this moment, with this president, you found the courage to stand up to him, or you continue to put party over country.
Thank you, Mayor. Senator Sanders, as a senior statesman of the group, please respond to Mayor Buttigieg.
Well, Pete is right. It's a question of vision. That's what it is, whether you're young, whether you're old, whether you're in between. And my vision, among other things, says that if we're going to fight for health care, we don't take money from the drug companies or the insurance companies. And I've asked all of the candidates who are running to say they will not accept money from those entities who, in my view, are going to war against the American people in terms of health care. That's a new vision. A new vision says that we must cancel completely student debt, because the younger generation in this country today, for the first time in modern American history, will have a lower standard of living than their parents.
They asked Pete Buttigieg, you know, is Bernie too old? Basically, he says, well, we need a new generation if you have the right vision. So kind of like, younger people. Yeah.
I thought that was actually even a jab, even as he was saying that it was like good that Bernie had vision. It's like vision, you know, like old people who can't see. Look at me, I'm not wearing glasses. Bernie's wearing glasses. He doesn't have any vision. Like
the glasses are going to be included in the new Medicare for all bill for the elderly. So sometimes you think like when he said like when he had that exchange with what's his name, you don't know that, Bernie. He's like, Medicare for all is going to include glasses for vision and hearing aids and dental. It's like at a certain point, is Medicare for all just a wish list for Bernie Sanders? It's about time to replace these glasses. I need a new prescription.
Medicare for me. I mean, all, definitely all.
Yeah. So that was a thought I had, but yeah.
That's funny.
But it's correct. You can't just have a young person. Like people think like, I want to have somebody younger. It's like, well, do they have the right policy? No, I just think like Bernie and, you know, Trump and Biden, they're all just too old. We just need somebody younger. Any younger person will do.
I don't know.
It's wrong-headed.
Sarah Palin and Paul Ryan weren't that old, so.
Yeah. What's that Miller, Stephen Miller?
Oh God, he's
technically
younger than us.
Young. Yeah. And I think finally we came to closing statements.
We have covered a lot of ground tonight. Now it is time for closing statements. You will each receive 1 minute. Governor Bullock, we're going to begin with you.
Thanks, Jake. I was raised in a single-parent household, at times paycheck to paycheck. Only knew there was a governor's house in town because I delivered newspapers to it, so I've made it about 4 blocks in life. Worked my way through college, paid my way through law school. But, you know, I had a chance to actually go from delivering newspapers to the governor's house as a kid to now raising our 3 kids in it. We got to recognize for far too many people in America that shot no longer exists. And for far too many in this country, it never has. I'm running for president to beat Donald Trump, win back the places we lost, and make sure that Americans know that where Washington has left them behind in their economy and their political system, I'll be there. This isn't a choice just between center and left, or about we don't have to choose between what we don't want and what we can't afford. Folks want a different way. They want to believe the economy and our democracy can work for us. That's why I'm running for president.
Thank you. Ms. Williamson?
Yes, our problem is not just that we need to defeat Donald Trump. We need a plan to solve institutionalized hatred, collectivized hatred, and white nationalism. And in order to do that, we need more than political insider game and wonkiness and intellectual argument. Those things will not defeat Donald Trump. We need some radical truth-telling, not just to talk about health care, but talk about why are we so sick all the time. We need to have a serious conversation about race and what is truly owed. Even on the subject of foreign policy, it's all about symptoms and not about cause. We need to talk about the fact that the United States has sacrificed our moral leadership, the fact that countries see us not only domestically but internationally with policies that simply support our corporate overlords, the fact that our national defense agenda is driven more by short-term profits for defense contractors than by genuine peace building. There's some corruption that is so deep, ladies and gentlemen. And until the Democratic Party is ready to speak to the deeper corruption, knowing that we ourselves sometimes, because of our own corporate donations, have participated, then I'm afraid those who vote for Trump will continue to vote for Trump, and those who might not like Donald Trump will continue to stay home. I want a politics that goes much deeper. I want a politics that speaks to the heart. Because the only way to fight, you keep talking about how we're going to fight Donald Trump. You can't fight dog whistles. You have to override them. And the only way you can override them is with new voices, voices of energy that only come from the fact that America has been willing to live up to our own mistakes, atone for our own mistakes, make amends for our own mistakes, love each other, love our democracy, love future generations, something emotional and psychological that will not be emerging from anything on this stage. It will emerge from something I'm the one who's qualified to bring forth.
Congressman Delaney.
Thank you, Jake. John F. Kennedy famously said, we should not seek the Republican answer. We should not seek the Democratic answer. We should seek the right answer. He was right when he said it, and he's right today as well. Donald Trump is the symptom of a disease, and the disease is divisiveness. And I'm the only one on the stage talking about curing that disease, with big ideas like national service, by focusing on actually solving problems. If we work together, we can fix healthcare and build infrastructure. We can invest in not just technology, but people and entrepreneurs, whether they be in Storm Lake, Iowa, or Detroit, Michigan, or Baltimore, Maryland. We can fight climate change and reimagine our education system. But we have to do it with real solutions, not impossible promises. Isn't it time we had a president who was a leader in both the private sector and in government to lead us into the future? I promise, as president, I will restore vision, unity, and leadership and decency to this country. And that's why I'm running for president. Thank you.
Congressman Ryan.
So in a few minutes, all of the pundits are going to be looking at this debate and saying, well, who captured the left lane and who captured the center lane and who captured the moderate lane? I hope tonight, at some level, I captured your imagination. Your imagination about what this country could be like if we united, if we put together real policies that weren't left or right, but new and better. That's how we win the future. It's new and better, a new and better economy, a new and better education system, a new and better healthcare system that focuses on prevention, an education system that focuses on the trauma of our kids. There's not going to be a savior, not going to be a superstar that's going to fix all this. It's going to be you and me. It's going to be us. That's how we fix this country. You and I coming together to do big things, to imagine the new country that we want by coming together, not left or right, new and better.
Governor Hickenlooper.
Thank you. And what a night. I've loved it. I'd like to ask every American to imagine that you are facing life-threatening surgery tomorrow, Would you choose a doctor who had a track record of proven success, who'd actually done the work, or someone who had just talked about it? That's the question we're facing in this primary. I've actually got a track record as a small business owner, as a mayor, and as a governor. We expanded healthcare in Colorado, got near universal coverage. We fought climate change directly, right? We beat the NRA. And for the last 3 years, we've been the #1 economy in the country. We can ramp all that out. I'm as progressive as anybody up on this stage, but I'm also pragmatic. And I've done the things that most of these other people are just talking about, and I know I can get results. And I can lead the people of this country toward a stronger, a healthier, and a more secure future, and defeat Donald Trump and return this country to its glory. Thank you.
Senator Klobuchar.
Well, thank you, Detroit. To win, we have to listen to people. And out there today is Casey Joe's mom. Casey Joe was a champion high school swimmer from a small town. She got sick, went to the emergency room, and got hooked on opioids. The last thing that she said to her mom was, "Mama, it's not my fault." And she died. A lot of Americans say the same thing every day. And that is what I will stand up for. And what I will stand up against are companies like those pharma companies that got her hooked on those opioids and didn't tell the doctors or the patients what was going to happen. We need someone that has people's back. We also need someone that can win. And I have won in these red districts. I win in the Midwest. I can win in states like Wisconsin and Michigan and Iowa. I also will do my job without fear or favor, just like I did as a prosecutor, and get through the gridlock like I've done as a senator, where I've passed over 100 bills where I've been the lead Democrat. And last, yes, I will govern with integrity. We have the president where people turn off their TV when they see him. Not me. I will make you proud as your president.
Congressman O'Rourke.
We are as divided and polarized as a country as we have ever been. And right now we have a president who uses fear to try to drive us further apart. To meet this challenge, we have to have hope in one another and a faith in a future of this country that includes everyone. My whole life, I've been including people in the success of this country, starting a small business with high-value, high-wage, high-skilled jobs in the third poorest urban county in America, serving on the city council and holding town hall meetings every single week to remind myself who it is that I serve at the end of the day. And in Congress, being in the minority, but working with Democrats and Republicans alike to deliver for my constituents and this country. And then in Texas this last year, traveling to every county, not writing anybody off, not taking anyone for granted, and at the end of the day, winning more votes than any Democrat had in the history of the state, winning independence for the first time in decades, and winning nearly 500,000 Republicans. And those 38 electoral college votes in Texas are now in play, and I can win them. That is how we defeat Donald Trump in November of 2020, and how we bring this divided country together again in January of 2021. Thank you.
Mayor Buttigieg.
There's good news and bad news. I'm going to start with the bad news. Our country's in trouble. GDP is going up and life expectancy is going down. Think about what that means. And it's only getting tougher. By 2030, we will have passed the point of no return on climate. There are going to be 130 million more guns on our streets. I'll be in my 40s then. If you have kids, think about how old they will be then. But here's the good news. It's not too late. We can tell our kids that before we ran out of time, just before we ran out of time, in 2020, we did what it took to deliver a climate that we didn't have to wonder if it could support us, to deliver a society where race has no bearing on your health or your wealth or your relationship with law enforcement, that we did what it took to deliver an economy where a rising tide actually does lift all boats. We can do this if and only if we are ready to walk away from what hasn't worked with bold action and win, not only defeat this president, but defeat his congressional allies with a defeat so big that it reunites the Republican Party with its conscience, as well as bringing Democrats to office. Join me and let's make it happen.
Senator Warren.
From the time I was 7 years old, I had a dream. I wanted to be a public school teacher. But my daddy ended up as a janitor, and by the time I graduated from high school, my family didn't have the money to send me off to college. My big chance was what was then a commuter college that cost $50 a semester. For me, what this election is all about is opportunity. Every budget, every policy that we talk about is about who's going to get opportunity. Is it going to go to the billionaires or is it going to go to our kids? Right now, for decades, we have had a government that has been on the side of the rich and the powerful. It has been on the side of the wealthy. And that means it has not been on the side of everyone else, not on the side of people living on our Native American reservations, people living in inner cities, people living in small farms and small communities across this country. How do we beat it? We beat it by being the party of big structural change. Give people a reason to show up and vote. And we beat it by building a grassroots movement across this country, not showing up behind closed doors with millionaires, but actually building it person by person across this country with small dollar donations, with volunteers, with people who show up and say, I have a stake in this democracy. I will not only beat Donald Trump in 2020, I'll start to make real change come 2021.
Senator Sanders.
As somebody who grew up in a family that lived in a rent-controlled apartment in Brooklyn, New York, and lived paycheck to paycheck, I'm running for president not just to defeat the most dangerous president in the history of this country, a guy who's a racist and a sexist and a homophobe. I'm running to transform this country and to stand with the working class of America, which for the last 45 years has been decimated. 2 days ago, I had a remarkable experience which should tell you everything you need to know about what's going on in America. I took 15 people with diabetes from Detroit, a few miles into Canada, and we bought insulin for 1/10 the price being charged by the crooks who run the pharmaceutical industry in America today. But it's not just the price fixing and the corruption and the greed of the pharmaceutical industry. It's what's going on in the fossil fuel industry. It's what's going on in Wall Street. It's what's going on with the prison industrial complex. We need a mass political movement. Please go to BernieSanders.com, become one of our million volunteers. Stand up and take on the greed and corruption of the ruling class of this country. Let's create a government and an economy that works for all of us, not just the 1%.
Williamson sort of lost control over rock and roll in her closing statement. Might drop the audio in there if you have a mind to.
Yeah.
Ryan said, I hope I captured your imagination at one point, which was laughable. Not even a little, Tim Ryan, not even a little.
No, definitely not.
You captured my imagination, and I'm imagining a future where little American children can watch a Democratic debate without your ass in it. So that's the way you captured my imagination. Hickenlooper said, I'm as progressive as anybody on this stage.
God.
Another laugh line. And Bernie Sanders mentioned that, in the week before the debate in Detroit there, he took 15 people from Detroit who had they had the medical condition. What do you call it?
Insulin. They needed insulin.
He took 15 people up from Detroit up to Canada to buy insulin for 1/10 the price, which was, a good thing. I saw the video and stuff on Facebook when he did that.
Mm-hmm.
We're saving $10,000 today.
So they are paying here less than 1/10 of what they're paying in Indiana.
Yes.
At a time when the manufacturers of insulin made $14.5 billion in profit last year.
How can we be the greatest country and I am paying that much? How can you sleep at night knowing that kids can't afford insulin? Today, actually, we got 24 vials, 25 vials. Great. It was $1,000 I paid. We still saved $10,000.
Rationing insulin, it's obviously never a good idea because you're allowing your blood sugars to rise high, and you're eating away at your muscle, at your fat storage, and you're basically depleting your energy storage. I realized what my mom and my family was having to take on. I realized that they were giving up and sacrificing so much just to keep me alive. I decided that, hey, I'm going to take one for the team this time.
It was pretty scary as a mom to know that your son felt that he was a burden to you. And we know as parents that we would do anything in the world for our children. Made hard decisions. You know, we say, okay, we'll not pay the electric bill this much month, but we'll catch up next month. Because we have fallen into this loophole where at the beginning of the year, we have a high deductible. So how do I meet paying tuition? How do I meet paying our household bills? How do I meet paying for the medicine that I have to keep my son alive?
It's gut-wrenching, and I told Mr. Sanders my husband's family immigrated here from Canada. My husband and I in 2019 are thinking about moving back to Canada. How devastating that would be for his family who wanted this so bad.
Well, I had 3 hypoglycemic seizures when I was in college.
I was diagnosed in March of 2010 with type 1 diabetes.
We had a young gentleman who was 21 years old, worked 2 jobs in Minnesota. His name is Jesse. He was found dead in his apartment at the end of June. For what reason? Because of price gouging and corruption by insulin manufacturers.
Really needs to stop.
$240 in Michigan for this vial, $24 in Canada. And the American people are going to have to be thinking long and hard about the greed of the pharmaceutical industry and the corruption and price fixing which is going on in the United States. Thank you very much.
A good thing. So, yeah. Anyways, I don't know. Fortunately, I mean, Bernie plugged his website, which is something we're definitely going to get to on night 2, because night 2, they told everybody, plug your website. Maybe you'll get enough donations and individual contributors that you could make the 3rd debate. And so they all tried to plug their websites. And as far as I can tell, I haven't gone to the website, but I'm pretty sure Biden screwed up his website address.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
3033 Biden Joe 30330. Really? What do those numbers mean? I want to type them in now, but I'm pretty sure somebody's probably made a spoof website or something at this point. Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, my $1 million opportunity's already sailed right there.
I know, right? You didn't register it in time.
Yeah. So, yeah. Anyways, I'm sorry we kind of rushed through those, but yeah, that was like, there's just, there's so many people talking, so many things going on, and the beginning of this debate was so disorganized that it was really hard to really get comprehensive notes. And again, so much of stuff that people said at different questions was just such fluff that it's just not even really worth taking notes on. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I don't know. Thoughts or other comments?
I'm looking forward to night 2. I've heard some good lines to pick apart from that one that I'm excited to get to. So. Yeah.
Well, having watched it, I'll say there were many fewer fireworks, and it was much less exciting than night 1, I think. Much less interesting as well in a way, but but yeah.
Yeah. Have you gone back and listened to our other ones at all?
Yeah, I think I listened to 1 or 2, both of them, I think. Yeah. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they're good. Yeah. I think they're good recaps. So it's nice to be able to throw, especially since the debates are so hard to find this time. It'll be good to give our commentary and stuff. So, but
yeah, I like it when I listen to one of the old things where we're recording and you start talking, you introduce a topic or something, and I think of something that I would say, that I want to say, and I'm like, oh, I would say it like this, and then I listened for a few seconds, like, oh yeah, I did say it like that. Okay, good. Like, I still agree with I'm thinking the same way. Like that kind of cues up the same thought for me that it did a few days ago. So it's like, yeah, I was saying what I wanted to say apparently. So that's good.
Right.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Not every time. I probably won't have that debate as fresh in my mind because I did that one before the first one, and I've already, got the notes. I've got fewer pages of notes for that one. I've got just one page front and back for that one. So
dipping in the Kool-Aid and you don't even know the flavor, right?
Oh God. Yeah, that's pretty much what we'll be doing. Yeah, like sometimes when I'm reading these things, I start reading a quote from somebody. I have no idea what they said. I have no idea where this is going. So. Yeah. Second night, I think several people tried to come after Biden on racial stuff. Like I think that was supposed to be like I don't know. I don't think they were successful. So that'll be interesting to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, thanks for chopping it up again tonight, and we'll come back in a couple of days and do night 2. So.
All right. Yeah. Thanks again, Bob. Yeah. Good luck, and I hope people are able to watch the debates, or if they're not able to watch the debates, maybe they can get something out of this. So yeah.
Go to Steve Bullock 3030.
Yeah, right. Oh God. Yeah. Hopefully by the time you're hearing this, the economy isn't in, absolute depression, and a bunch more people have not died in America. God, this stuff has got to stop, people. Like for real, it's just got to stop.
Mm-hmm.
It's not good.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I wish I had a little bit more pathos to bring to it than that, but
yeah.
But, all right. Well, anyways, yeah.
All right. Well, have a good night, Chad.
All right. Yeah. You too, Bob. We'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you later.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Join the Rob Burgess Show mailing list. Go to tinyletter.com/The Rob Burgess Show and type in your email address. Then respond to the automatic message. Also, please make sure to comment, follow, like, subscribe, share, rate, and review everywhere the podcast is available, including iTunes, YouTube, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play Music, Twitter, Internet Archive, TuneIn, RSS, and now Spotify. The official website for the podcast is www.therobburgessshow.com. You can find out more about me by visiting my website, www.thisburgess.com. If you have something to say, record a voice memo on your smartphone and send it to therobburgessshow@gmail.com. Include voice memo in the subject line of the email. Also, if you want to call or text the show for any reason, the number is 317-674-3547. Until next time.